Okay, I would like to call the Tuesday, I'm going to be thrown off by this, Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 City Council meeting to order at 3:35. Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Hawkins,
Here.
Councilmember Sagerstrom,
Here.
Councilmember Such,
Here.
with Mayor Pro Tem Plummer and Councilmember Garaventa absent.
And just something of note for the public, and it appears we only have a couple public members right now. The Mayor Pro Tem is actually out fighting fires with his chainsaw. So, good man, good man. Okay, so we will receive public comment at this time. Any public comments? Come on up, sir. We're going to be going into closed session here in just a couple minutes, and then we'll go back out to open session at 5 o'clock. So then we will be doing the pledge at that time.
So these public comments are on the closed session.
Yes.
On the call about
yes, sir.
Negotiations.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I have no knowledge. Nothing to say.
Okay. This time, with no public comments about our closed session items, we're going to be going into closed session at 3:37. Okay, would like to call the Tuesday, I want to say Monday, Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 Sonora City Council meeting to order at 5:13 p.m. Just before we do the pledge, I want to let the public know on both of our closed session items, 1 and 2, that direction was given to city staff. Okay, so Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Gorski.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, please, Mary Rose.
Mayor Hawkins,
Here.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Here.
Councilmember Sagerstrom,
Here.
Councilmember Such,
Here.
with Mayor Pro Tem Plummer absent.
And just of note, Mr. Plummer, our Mayor Pro Tem, is out actually fighting fires with his chainsaw. So he's being out in the woods, very brave. Okay, city clerk's report on the agenda posting.
So the agenda was posted Friday, September 3rd at 3 p.m.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
So it appears, Mr. Mayor, that District 1 Supervisor David Goldenberg is not here, so I don't believe we're going to be receiving an update, so we can pull that item from the agenda.
Okay, maybe we can do that next meeting.
Yep.
Okay, item number 4, receive an annual update from Visit Tuolumne, and that's number 1, and then 4.2 is approve an agreement for the 2021 city promotion project with Visit Tuolumne County to provide advertising, marketing, media placement, web development, design, and reporting services to the city, and authorize the city administrator to sign the agreement.
Mr. Mayor, we have Lisa Mayo with the
Yay!
Visit Tuolumne Bureau here to give a presentation for you.
Thank you. I'm gonna let Chris set this up for us.
Councilmember Such and Councilmember Sagerstrom, can you view that presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for having us. Good evening, Mayor and council members and staff and the public. First, I want to just say that we really appreciate your continued support of Tuolumne County, our travel and tourism industry that we have here, and of Visit Tuolumne County. Your presence at our meetings, at our board meetings, at our marketing meetings is noticed, and it's very much appreciated. In your packets, you received a very long annual report. We're not going to go through that tonight. I'm sure everyone's happy about that. But we do have it available online, so anyone in the public that might be interested in seeing more details of what we're doing can go check that out. at visittuolumne.com. And
I'm sorry, Lisa, it was not provided in your packet, so we
Oh,
will
sorry.
provide the link for you to the city council.
what she just said, so thank you. Yeah, you can go to visittuolumne.com and go to annual reports and check it out. So tonight I will be presenting. I'm Lisa Mayo, the President and CEO of Visit Tuolumne County, along with Jen Lopez, she's our marketing manager, and Kathy Nana Diego, who's our senior account director with Augustine Agency. So as you know, our role is to market Tuolumne County to increase the visitor economy that we have here, and that's good for our entire community. In recent years, our role has really evolved to include tourism recovery as we've experienced wildfires and public safety power shutoffs, government shutdowns, pandemics, you name it. Doesn't look like this is probably going to forward. So,
Page down.
I tried that one.
Not going for- Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we'll start with this right here. Thank you. Well, Visit Tuolumne County, we have a traditional membership model. This slide is not about that, but what that is we have a very minimal annual membership fee of $150. We have a very diverse group of members. And we promote Tuolumne County as a whole, and so sometimes people wonder, why do we have a membership if we're supposed to promote Tuolumne County? But the reason is because we have a lot of add-on things that people can participate in, like our website and our annual travel inspiration guide. And knowing that so many businesses struggled this last year, we did offer businesses to waive their membership fees for 2021, 2021. And most of them renewed and did pay the fees. And that spoke volumes to us that they still wanted to support our efforts in spite of what they had been through. And it goes without saying that the past 18 months have been challenging for everyone. The travel and tourism industry was hit hard and very early on in our pandemic. We acknowledge the incredible resiliency of our local businesses and residents. The number of new businesses that opened up during this time is crazy. It's absolutely incredible. And one of those businesses in downtown Sonora is the Local Collective. And Zach Broxham, one of the owners there, is one of our newest board members. So this slide that you have in front of you gives the roster of our board. And I just wanted to show our executive board, Katie Dunn, she's here tonight. Many of you know Katie. She represents Airbnbs of Tuolumne County and is also the executive director for the Sonora Chamber of Commerce. And then our vice chair, Judy Grossman with Brush and Cork, and our secretary treasurer, Stephanie McCaffrey with the McCaffrey House Bed and Breakfast. I also wanted to take this opportunity tonight to let everyone know that we do have this community investment program. And this is a program where we work with nonprofit organizations in the county to promote or sponsor various events or programs that encourage visitation to Tuolumne County, especially in off-peak times. One of the events that we have been a sponsor of for some time is Sonora's Second Saturdays and the concerts in the park. And those are just a couple examples of events in Sonora that we do sponsor and additionally promote. We've also expanded this program to include things like trail expansion, stewardship programs. One Pile at a Time is a really good example of one of the organizations that we recently gave some funds to help with their efforts. So we're just going to look at a couple of the trends for tourism. This is 2019. We were on track we did have a very actually record-breaking year in 2019. You can see the steady increase in travel spending just by looking at this chart. And then here we have 2020 show up and we see what happens. And we lost about $100 million from over 2019 in travel spending in Tuolumne County. The travel spending that we did have was about $173 million. Employment was about 2,100. This is in 2020. And that included local sales tax receipts of 6.6 million, 7.3 million of state sales tax receipts, and then occupancy tax of 3.75 million. And that's the whole county. So what those equal to is about $638 in that residents would pay in taxes if we had to pay those. So $638 per household. And this is a breakdown of travel spending by sector within the industry. And you can see that the orange line there is 2020, the purple line is 2019. And so that there's obviously a big difference, but it's kind of interesting that the ratios kind of stayed the same. So in addition to the data that I just shared, which we get from Visit California every year, we wanted to dig a little deeper and really get to know and see who our visitors are and where they are coming from. So going into this, this fiscal year, we started working with Madden Media, and they have a platform called Madden Voyage. And we're able to really take a look at how our travelers are spending when they're here, or how they're arriving here, where they're going, what they're spending their money on. So we're really looking forward to getting some very cool data out of that, and we will report on that to you next year. So next we just want to show an overview video that highlights the year and just some of the things that we have done.
Visit Tuolumne County's destination marketing strategy is one rooted in amplifying its brand throughout California, the United States, and international markets. The marketing efforts stretch over strategic partnerships with consistent messaging over multi-channel platforms. Despite the challenges faced by our community during the pandemic, Visit Tuolumne County's marketing and advertising efforts have positioned the destination well, moving full steam ahead as an active contributor to local economic recovery efforts. Here's a recap of some of the major projects and wins we're celebrating from the past year. Although the travel industry was practically at a standstill for most of the fiscal year, visitation that did occur still brought nearly $3.6 million in TOT funds, $6.6 million in local sales tax, and $7.3 million in state sales tax. Visit Tuolumne County's consumer marketing campaign, Wander Freely, continued to reach audiences this past year, pivoting as needed to welcome guests during periods when travel restrictions were lifted. Through owned, earned, and paid channels, the campaign targeted residents in the San Francisco Bay Area and Greater Sacramento regions. While the primary objectives were to increase visitation, travel spending, and overnight stays, the messaging was sensitive to what audiences were experiencing, and the results well exceeded industry standards. Tuolumne County was no doubt top of mind among potential visitors. When non-essential travel was off limits, the campaign shifted to wander locally, encouraging Tuolumne County residents to support businesses within their own community. Geo-fenced advertising promoted shopping local, ordering takeout and delivery from restaurants, and booking staycations. Additionally, weekly gift card giveaways were used as a way to engage residents across social media channels. The team also launched the Tuolumne County Healthy Pledge Program, a commitment to creating and providing a clean, safe, and healthy environment for residents and visitors. Not only did the program contribute to the organization's focus on sustainability and responsible travel, it reinforced confidence among potential travelers that they could feel safe when visiting the destination. Continuing sustainability efforts, the Visitors Bureau also developed a plan to ensure residents and visitors have beautiful and resilient places to live, work, and play. The plan is based on 5 pillars: protect the environment and cultural historical resources and regional identity, protect and enhance resident quality of life, foster a vibrant economy, provide for an excellent visitor experience, and ensure enjoyment by future generations. From in-office initiatives to more visible aspects like a Leave No Trace billboard and a partnership with the Pinecrest Expedition Academy to plant a new grove of giant sequoias in Kennedy Meadows, the team is not only sharing the message, but also living it. Visit Tuolumne County consistently shares messages about adventuring responsibly, wildfire prevention, and more on its social media channels. Various programming and content activations took place this past year, some fan favorites and some new to the scene. The always popular Tuolumne County Restaurant Week took place in January and embraced some adjustments to ensure programming was COVID appropriate, targeting a locals only audience. Two promotional components were the focus of the event: promote safe takeout dining options and special discounts from participating locations, and highlighting international dishes offered by local restaurants with supporting messaging of dine local while dreaming global. Tuolumne County Art Week, an inaugural celebration of arts and culture hosted by Visit Tuolumne County, celebrated the creativity throughout the community. Coinciding with California's Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month, the week-long event took place in April and featured local artists and art-related organizations. Tapping into the county's #1 outdoor activity, the Visitors Bureau developed the new Trailheads program, designed to help people enjoy the beautiful landscape of the region and position Visit Tuolumne County as a resource for all trail enthusiasts. The initiative creates brand loyalty among travelers and encourages repeat visitation through virtual badge offerings, while also reinforcing sustainability messaging. Just this past May, Visit Tuolumne County launched a new podcast called Follow Me in Tuolumne. The platform's growing audience is highly engaged, spending an average of 20 to 30 minutes at a time listening to episodes. Other wins to share include the increase in social media audiences, with Instagram most notably seeing a 21% increase year over year and a view rate of over 15% for stories, well above benchmarked expectations. The average post engagement rate was 6.74%, which is nearly 5 times the industry standard. Visit Tuolumne County also added Spotify and TikTok to their list of platforms. In total, our channels have over 52,000 followers, garnering over 2.3 million organic impressions throughout last year. Public relations efforts also continued this year, focusing on bringing the destination to visitors virtually during shutdown periods, and then ramping up with unique story ideas and earned media coverage to let travelers know Tuolumne County is safely open for business. Coverage was published in Travel and Leisure, Forbes, Men's Journal, and across Visit California channels, to name a few. This local, regional, and national coverage received a reach of over 1.3 billion and over 4.5 million coverage views. Additionally, the team invested in resources to develop a new crisis communication plan, serving as a comprehensive evaluation of potential crises for the region. Content includes a response plan for each potential crisis with specific steps to follow during and following a crisis. Marketing partnerships focused on regional, state, national, and international conversations and allowed for Visit Tuolumne County to leverage funding and capture market share with new audiences, allowing the destination to continue to build the tourism pipeline of interested potential visitors. These partnerships included Visit California, Gold Country Visitors Association, High Sierra Visitors Council, Yosemite Gateways, Brand USA, and Black Diamond. And Tuolumne County exposure didn't stop there. The region is not only of interest among travelers and outdoor enthusiasts, but also among the film industry. 2 feature films, a photo shoot, and documentary for TV were filmed throughout the county this past year. It'll be very exciting to see our beautiful community on the big screen yet again. With no shortage of challenges, this past year has put a spotlight on how important the visitor economy is to Tuolumne County. It is the largest private sector industry, bringing in millions of new dollars in tax revenues that help sustain our community's vital services and support our families, friends, and neighbors. We look forward to continuing recovery efforts, working tirelessly to bring this vital source of funding back to the region. Here's to a strong recovery, continued success, and forward traction in the coming year.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, no. Okay, let's do this. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, good evening. So I'm Jen Lopez, the marketing manager of Visit Tuolumne County, and I'm just going to expand a little bit on the video you just saw for a few minutes, talking about some other programs that we have. One being social media and digital content.
So Visit Tuolumne County has 8 social media accounts with over 52,000 followers across them. And the primary focus of these accounts is to echo the campaigns and initiatives such as Wander Freely, which you saw, Wander Locally, and initiatives we're doing as a whole. During the constantly changing situations of 2020, 2021, social media was used to not only inspire travel when the time was right to do so, but also to encourage supporting local businesses, exploring our own backyard when travel was restricted, highlight local businesses who were able to ship or had pickup options available, especially during the holidays, to keep the dollars local instead of out of big mail order companies, and then also to encourage visitors to protect and respect the public lands as they were here when travel was allowed, as we started to see a whole new visitor. So besides social media, there's a plethora of other digital platforms that Visit Tuolumne County invests in to share authentic travel inspiration. A couple of new examples are CrowdRiff and Visit California's Travel Stories. CrowdRiff is a platform that allows us to gain access to user-generated content. You can see on the box there of many different pictures. Those are people who have visited Tuolumne County and have shared their experiences on Instagram. And so through the CrowdRiff platform, we're able to reach out to those people, ask them if we can use their images in our own projects, and then we secure the rights to those as the visitors deem appropriate. So the Visit California Travel Stories is somewhat like stories on Instagram, but also allows us to share a bit more information embedded within them using our own content, but also this user-generated content as well. So Visit Tuolumne County has received shout outs from Visit California for creativity in some of our travel stories, and a shout out also from the CEO of CrowdRiff himself. So although more and more every year our budget goes toward digital advertising, traditional advertising such as print, TV, and radio still remain relevant and important. And I'll quickly go through some of the applications, starting with print. Visit Tuolumne County has its go-to print publications, and along with the digital content that goes along with them, they have proven to be key lead generators. Their readers and followers ultimately showing interest in Tuolumne County request our inspiration travel guide, or by the thousands actually annually, and also visit our website to learn more. Some print activations provide opportunities for VTC members to participate in economical pay-to-play co-op opportunities as well. By far, most of VTC's marketing is out of the county, but we do have some advertising in the region and within the county, advertising in some of our local publications, along with some messaging on, or advertisements marketing, basically on the Tuolumne County transit buses as well. This particular instance is a stewardship message to leave no trace. So before I move on, I should mention that all of our advertising and marketing, with the exception of print due to timing for submissions, is paused and restarted as pandemic conditions and travel restrictions require. So this year we worked with 2 television stations, KRON4 in San Francisco and KXTV ABC 10 in Sacramento. Both stations ran VTC ads on traditional broadcast TV and online. And here I'll play one of the 15-second spots for you.
Reclaim your life outside of 4 walls and recapture lost moments with loved ones. From the wide open spaces of the High Sierra and the awe-inspiring grandeur of Yosemite to the refreshingly unique local shops and uncrowded historic towns of Gold Country, this is the kind of place where you can wander freely. Welcome back to Tuolumne County. Your backyard just got a whole lot bigger. Plan your trip at visittctoday.com.
You could also see a recreate responsibly, travel responsibly message at the end of that ad as well. So not only did the stations run the ad spots on TV, but both stations also developed and featured several segments featuring Tuolumne County. That included John Bartel. Maybe you're familiar with Bartel Backroads on ABC 10, and also over in the Bay Area on Caro, and some segments locally on their staycation segments. Radio has always been part, or is always part of VTC's repertoire of outlets, and spots were aired on KOIT in San Francisco and KFBK in Sacramento. Again, these aired during the times deemed appropriate based on conditions at the time. And I'll play one of these for you now.
You know that moment when you realize you're actually in the moment? That's the feeling you can reclaim in Tuolumne County. It's the kind of place where fresh air comes with a fresh perspective. So come wander freely and safely. Plan your trip at visittctoday.com.
So all of these applications, along with the ones you saw in the video, are just the tip of the iceberg and are key mechanisms for promoting Tuolumne County and inspiring travelers to learn more and to visit. These applications are meant to inspire travelers to engage in the foundations of VTC's marketing efforts, the Inspiration Travel Guide, which is printed annually, and also the VTC website. So the Inspiration Travel Guide, formerly known as the Vacation Planner, is distributed in key locations throughout the San Francisco Bay Area through direct requests from, say, some of those print media outlets that you saw a minute ago, and also by VTC members, among others. The VTC website engages potential and returning visitors with member listings, blogs, things to do, places to eat, places to stay. The visitation engagement of the website so far this calendar year has been impressive, to say the least. As you can see, in comparison to 2019, the record year that Lisa mentioned earlier, the number of sessions in 2021 was up 58% as of June 30th, demonstrating that marketing efforts that include paid search, which we haven't even touched on today, have put Tuolumne County in the forefront of the public. Furthermore, when travelers are ready to book, they can do so right on our website. An embedded booking referral engine allows travelers to book with VTC member lodging establishments of all kinds. And this is a book direct option. So if they were to move forward from this and want to book, they would be taken to the lodging establishment's own website and not to a third-party website. This platform is paid for by VTC annually, and it is free to our lodging partners. VTC has multiple platforms that drive traffic to members, and this particular one really demonstrates ROI. So this past year, we've worked with an advertising and PR agency for the very first time. And here to talk about Augustine Agency and some additional programs is Kathy Nana-Diego, Senior Account Director.
Hello there. Thanks, Jen. All right. So, one second. All right. So it has been wonderful this past year. I had the pleasure of meeting Lisa at an event in February prior to when COVID hit and shut all events down. But it's been really great this past year forming that relationship and getting to work together and really bringing tourism back when people were ready to travel. We have, as we mentioned previously, when we couldn't encourage people to travel, we then use that time to really invest in resources and other things, including a lot of the paid media campaign, public relations, and I'll go into that in a second. So going into our media relations, in addition to the advertising campaigns that Jen spoke about, we also helped with public relation efforts, shifting tactics as needed to promote travel allowances versus restrictions. We submitted 4 different press releases around the launch of the Wander Freely campaign. We highlighted what's new throughout the county. We promoted that Pinecrest Expedition Academy Sequoia tree planting that you saw in the video. And we also announced the Trailheads program. We proactively pitched stories to journalists and writers for various print publications, radio and TV outlets. And as you saw in the video, we were able to reach
1.3 billion people to give us a coverage view of 4.5 million. Oh, wrong way. There we go. We also collaborated with Black Diamond. They are our public relations firm who helps us reach the UK and Ireland audiences. And we did pause with them, bringing them back in November, mainly because because international travel has not been permitted, but they are really long lead times. So we did want to bring them back, and it's been great. In just that time frame, we were able to publish 63 articles that had a total circulation of over 11 million, and that gives us an estimated value of about $65,000. We also worked with them for the travel trade, working to train travel agents, and trained 137 agents all about Tuolumne County and the benefits of visiting here through their online training portal. And then they also have Travel Gossip. It's this new news channel that they launched, providing a website and email communications, and Visit Tuolumne County was a prime sponsor. We were able to receive banners on their website as well as in their emails. And we were able to have some pretty impressive website results. There were over 86,000 different page views. People were spending nearly a minute average time on the site, I'm sorry, nearly 2 minutes. And then they were going about 3 to 4 pages per session. So they were really engaged with the content. And then for the emails, there were 19 emails that went out daily to 9,300 people, and they received an open rate of 25%. That's really high. So we were really excited about that. And then looking into some future projects. So we have a lot of different activations and things and goals for this year. Some of them include one, sustainable travel tips. So what this is, it's going to be a social influencer campaign that targets sustainability influencers, highlighting the specific locations and the sustainable businesses within the county. What we're looking to do is develop a sustainability map of sorts to further educate people about where these businesses are located and ask them to come and travel responsibly. We're also looking to potentially do some cleanup days, looking at post-busy travel periods, maybe after winter, maybe sometime in the spring, doing a sled cleanup day. Things like that to help not only support the region and our sustainability messaging, but then also have an actionable event that people can then visit and then support our businesses. And of course, through all of this, we're going to be leveraging earned, paid, and utilize our own channels to not only promote it, but then also to support our other messaging. The other one is our top Instagrammable locations. So we want to share some of those locations throughout the county, create a poll on social, and then entice our followers to vote on their favorite location. We're going to announce the top 3 winning locations, emphasizing the 3 destinations in one, with our overall goal to just bring awareness of the beauty of Tuolumne County. Then we have our digital media kit, and this really supports all of our public relation and media pitching efforts. We're developing a kit that includes like a fact sheet, story ideas. It's really kind of like a one-stop shop for all of our journalists and our writers to be able to access key information quickly. We also have a consumer and a meetings campaign that we're going to be pushing out. Based off the success that our advertising campaign had this past fiscal year, we've audited all of our tactics, all of the creative, and we're really going to be pushing forth those best performers while also rotating in some unique new messaging and imagery. And for the first time, we're going to be running a meetings campaign that's going to be targeting our meeting planners with the goal of trying to build back that group travel and that midweek travel. Then we have our meetings and event planner guide. This is so close to being done, and we're so excited to be able to have this resource, this tool. It's basically going to be, it's a very robust list of venues and resources and services that people can get throughout the county, team building activities, all the things that a meeting planner would need in order to plan a successful event. And finally, we have the Outdoor Writers Association of California Fall Conference. It's currently slated to happen in Sonora in November. But, you know, with everything that's still happening with COVID, the safety of the community is of our utmost concern. So if we need to reschedule it, we will. And that is all we have. Are there any questions?
Colette or Ann, would you like to start?
Well, I'll just say this is a really impressive work. So thank you.
And I have attended some of the Visit Tuolumne County meetings and have seen this work in progress. And I'm so impressed with the energy and creativity and momentum that's involved, and the team that puts it together, and of course the agency that supports it. They've done a terrific job, and I'm very excited that the city of Sonora will be participating and integrating into their program. I think that it can only end with good success for greater travel to the city as well. So, kudos to the team and all their efforts.
And as the Visitors Bureau rep for the city, I want to basically echo exactly what Ann had said. We've seen this kind of coming along the way, and I just think it's a wonderful project going forward for both the city and for the whole community, the county. The question I had, the one question I had, maybe for Lisa. We've gone from back down to 2010 numbers. I see Dana, but I don't see Lisa. Oh, there's Lisa. Okay. It kind of surprises me that we were able to keep such a high base with only going down to 2010 numbers with all the COVID shutdowns and everything. Do you have an idea how we were able to get that number? Obviously people were coming anyway, but there must have been a lot of locals who stepped up.
Yeah, if
I don't know if you have any figures on that.
So if we're looking at the first 2 quarters of this year, the big thing that over half of the TOT that came in was from Airbnb, vacation rental type places. And we are figuring that a lot of that is because at that time, people were they were working from home or they could work remotely. And so coming up, they felt safer in the mountains, I think, and just getting an individual home or a space just for their families. And they would stay a lot longer. There would be like 3-week stays instead of maybe a 3-night stay. So I think that's where a lot of that definitely came from.
Thanks. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Jim, you asked a question that I was going to ask, and as always, great job and thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for your continued support.
So then we're on to the second item, but I guess I can ask for public comment after we discuss the second item, or should I go through?
Well, it's one item. So if you want me to introduce
yes,
the second part of the one item, and then we can ask for public comment on that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that then.
So this is a contract that, the item before you is a contract with the Visitors Bureau between the City of Sonora and the Visitors Bureau. If you recall from our June 7th budget that was approved by the City Council, we had talked about the usage of our American Rescue Plan dollars, and the Council had put an importance on utilization of those funds towards working with small businesses within the City of Sonora and utilizing the Visitors Bureau to help us with marketing of those small businesses. So currently the City of Sonora contributes to Visit Tuolumne. We contribute 25% of our TOT dollars. That's roughly about $150,000 a year that the City of Sonora contributes to Visit Tuolumne. I believe it's about $150,000, around estimate. Our total amount received minus what we contribute to Visit Tuolumne is about, before COVID, was just around $500,000. Obviously, we've seen that hit. We have not gotten back up to those 2019 numbers just yet, And so we wanted the opportunity to work with Visit Tuolumne so we could have a city-specific campaign. So the contract before you is working with Visit Tuolumne and by proxy Augustine Agency to look at a city-specific campaign for our businesses within the city of Sonora to help with the advertising for our small businesses to recover from the COVID-19 reduction of sales tax and also visiting from outside the jurisdiction. Did you want to add anything, Kathy, on the addition of the contract? Would you mind just kind of giving a brief
please.
up down on? So Kathy, from your Augustine agency, who's our rep with the city of Sonora, is going to go through exactly what that campaign looks like, specifically for this $50,000 contract.
Yes, so I apologize, I don't have an actual deck, but essentially what the campaign and scope would include would be a landing page specific that would be on the City of Sonora website. That would include, all the ways to encourage people to visit, all the information that they would need to have. That way, as well, there is a paid advertising promotion part of it, so that when people click on an ad, they get to a landing page. It is one holistic experience. The campaign is going to be done through social media channels, through the City of Sonora Facebook page and Instagram as well. And then that is going to run for a period of about 4 months. We'll see how it works. We'll be providing reporting, and if it continues to do well, then we'll assess it at that time. We also are going to be helping with managing the social channels. On an organic level, putting together content calendars to make sure that people continue to stay engaged, so we can message with people and basically post on behalf of the city. And then we are putting together a partner email template. And the goal for this is to not only utilize the database that is available so that we can communicate to all of the businesses throughout Sonora, but then also to let them know everything that we're doing so that they're in the know and they can share as well, and be part of the effort in bringing business or people to these small businesses.
So we're really excited about this because, as we know, we're a very limited resource staffing capacity, and this will give us the opportunity to provide that additional social media presence and campaign for our small businesses. I keep saying small businesses because we really distinguish. We know that our larger businesses in the city of Sonora did very well during the pandemic, and so we want to make sure that we're helping those small businesses that did not. And so from this, we are able then to have a broader presence on all of our social media outlets and have the Visitors Bureau and Augustine Agency help us with that in the capacity of helping our businesses.
Okay. Council members, any questions about this before I turn it over to public comment?
I just wanted to say that, based on the Visit Tuolumne campaign and the images that I've seen in our packet, I'm very excited about this. I think, they've done a brilliant job on Visit Tuolumne, and I have great expectations for Stay Sonora. So thank you.
Okay, I will turn it over to public comment. I'm just making sure you didn't want to say anything, Jim. Okay. So if any member of the public would like to speak on this matter, come to the microphone.
Yeah, this matter. So it's specific to the contract and the Visit Tuolumne annual report.
Oh, annual report?
Yes.
Yeah. No, we're not at public comment yet. We are on the public comment for the Visit Tuolumne item.
All right.
Okay. Would anybody like to speak on this matter? Okay. Okay, so I'll bring it back to the council, and I just want to throw out there that during our goal setting session, our council really set out to try to do what we could to invest in business, but at the same time, again, a public comment is over with. So just so you know, but we wanted to bring something back to where we can invest in business, not just the big business, but downtown business. And we ended up being able to get some money from the rescue plan. And this is what we came up with. And it was still keeping those advertising dollars to someone that we know and trust locally, not just contracting out to throw it to someone. And so this is what, I mean, Mary Rose, I know that you and Mr. Gorski, put your heads together, and this is what we came up with. So I just want to say good job on that. And I guess I'll look for a motion and a second.
Okay. Move to approve an agreement for the 2021 city promotion project with Visit Tuolumne County to provide advertising, marketing, media placement, web development, design, and reporting services to the city, and authorize the city administrator to sign the agreement.
I second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Garaventa, second by Councilmember Segestrom. Roll call vote, please, Mary Rose.
Mayor Hawkins?
Aye?
Councilmember Garaventa?
Aye.
Councilmember Segerstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Such?
Aye.
With Mayor Pro Tem Plummer absent.
Okay, passes 4-0. Okay, so next, thank you. Next on this is the, I always lose my spot, Washington Fire update. Receive an update on the Washington Fire.
Mr. Mayor, this item before you is for the public to understand the response on behalf of the city of Sonora. We're going to allow both our Fire Chief, Amy New, as well as our Police Lieutenant, Jennifer Hanula, and myself to update the council and the public on our fire response on the Washington Fire.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, members of the public. So just an update on the Washington Fire. The incident ended with approximately 130 acres was the total acreage we had. Of that, 40 acres were in the city and the remainder in the county. City of Sonora went into unified command with the county fire and CAL FIRE. We relied heavily on law enforcement, our own Sonora police and other agencies for mandatory evacuations, which I'll let the lieutenant go into, and also an advisory warning for people to evacuate the area. It was approximately 300 people is what I totaled up for evacuations in the mandatory areas. We did have 2 minor injuries to firefighters who were treated and released the same day. Again, 18 structures. 3 of those were in the city limits. Those were out on Southgate. They were not occupied structures, storage buildings for the city. And unfortunately, one was what we refer to as Station 3, which housed our historical equipment. The building wasn't completely damaged, but it did damage one of the fire engines, historical fire engines inside, which was our 1953 GMC, the old 752 engine. The cause still remains under investigation. The fire did start in the county's jurisdiction, so CAL FIRE and the county is completing the investigation on that, so I don't have any other information regarding the cause at this time. And also the remains that were found in the fire scar footprint are being investigated by the county's sheriff's office, and I do not have any further information on that as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Just wanted to give an overview. The incident is still being an active incident. We are still going out and patrolling on a daily basis. We haven't seen any hot spots. We usually wait about 72 hours to make sure that there's nothing that's going to pop up with trees falling. It is still a hazardous area in locations, so we really caution people if there are areas open in the fire footprint. Please be very careful if you're going out there. Don't go out there unless you have a reason to be out there. It still is a very hazardous site. And so we'll be working through with the city and the county on the hazard mitigation coming up both areas. And again, I want to thank all of the support that we had in the community, Red Cross, TUD, PG&E, law enforcement, CAL FIRE. It was definitely the entire community, and I know I'm missing agencies, so I apologize, but of everybody coming together to help those that were displaced, to help those that were evacuated, and try to get as much information out to the public as possible. And luckily it was stopped at 136 acres. So, Lieutenant?
Just stand off to the side so I can see you guys. So I just want to say good evening, everyone. We talked about evacuations Chief New kind of gave you a breakdown. But as far as law enforcement, our main goal is the safety of our public and to get everyone out of the evacuated areas. So we ended up doing 16 staff road closures, 24 streets were evacuated. We had 2 roving units to ensure that property was not broken into for the people that cooperated and left. Some of you did come home to a crime scene tape on your door. We wanted to make sure that you knew that it was just that we checked your residence and that there wasn't something else going on. That's to help us at night when we patrol to know that we got everyone out and no one should be at your residence. So that's why we conducted those. We had other agencies assist us, being Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department sent 8 individuals that stayed for a 14-hour period, along with one of their fire investigators, and along with 4 from Calaveras County. They came in and helped us with road closures because we did not have the personnel to continue to have those road closures for those 2 days that they were in effect. So we appreciate all of our agencies helping us. The public who were very, very nice and got out of the area and assisted us with those evacuations and making them go very, very smoothly. We appreciate that. The more time that we have to spend getting people out, then we can't help the other ones when the fire kept jumping around and we kept getting different evacuations. So we do appreciate the public very much and trusting us and getting out of the area.
And from the city staff side, we at the time that the call came in at about 1:30, we activated our emergency operations center. That was done jointly with Tuolumne County. I went up to the county EOC Emergency Operations Center off of Stryker Court and maintained the city's fire response from the Emergency Operations Center in Stryker Court. So our center was opened up in conjunction with the county. We then officially declared the emergency, this local state of emergency, on August 27th. And then, of course, was ratified by a majority of the city council on August 30th. From a city staff perspective, we helped with managing evacuations from the EOC perspective and setting up evacuation centers with the county, as well as on Saturday participating with the county in the Disaster Assistance Center to those that were affected by the fire, to be able to go and receive resources to help them. So a myriad amount of agencies and resources were available on site at Sonora Elementary on Saturday to be able to help those that had lost their homes in the fire. So all in all, I would like to say from a staff perspective, it was an amazing show of cooperation and strength through both the city and the county working jointly, and then our other agencies that responded to work this emergency. It was quite a show of strength between the 2 agencies. I just want to remind the council, and you'll see it in the next item, that even though we have declared the emergency, we have ratified it, and that is going on to the state for full state authorization of the emergency, we are still responsible for costs incurred on behalf of the fire. So even if the state does give us the emergency declaration, we are responsible for 75% of our response. That includes those those law enforcement emergency response that came from Stanislaus and Calaveras and so forth. So that item that you're going to see coming next is in response to what we've put out to be able to ensure that we are paying those bills on time. Again, as Fire Chief Amy New stated, we did receive damage to 3 of our city-owned structures, and we are working with our insurance company to assess the cost of that damage.
Okay. Colette or Ann, did you have anything to add or any questions?
No, not at this time. I think that was comprehensive and we had been briefed, so thank you.
Nothing for me either. Thanks, Matt.
Councilmember Garaventa?
You're going to go to public after this, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Looking for any public comment on this particular item. Oh, come on up, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Sargo. I own Central Heat and Air that just about burnt down last week. And praise God, you guys all did a great job. I mean, we really appreciate that. And as you know, it burnt right up to my back gate, stopped there, and thanks to a timely retardant drop, didn't burn much in our yard. Point I wanted to bring up is we have a serious problem in this town with fuels buildup. Same thing we have out in the forest. You know, the stuff just grows up every year and it keeps getting thicker and thicker, and we get the right conditions, which fortunately did not happen that day. We did not have any wind, and that's probably what saved most of this town, because if it had made a run on up into Gibbs Ranch in that direction, we could have lost a lot of houses. If it had gone up behind the sewer plant into behind Sonora Lumber there, we could have lost a lot of the town there. The point I want to make is that we as individuals have to take care of our property and clear them, get the fuels reduction down, and we have to talk with our neighbors and get them to do their part, and if necessary, help them. And the third part of that is the public land in this town. Many of you probably don't know this, but that big mountain between the bypass and my shop and 49 and the sewer plant belongs to the city of Sonora.
Yes, it does.
And it was one of the hottest burning spots in the deal, in the entire fire. Yeah, I don't know why it didn't keep going, to tell you the truth, because it very easily could have. What you need to do is some sort of an inventory on what you have other properties that are going to burn eventually too. Budget money to get the fuels reduction work done, and make sure that it happens, because if with the current situation with the fuels buildup in between our communities, in the gullies, on the hills, we can't stop these fires most of the time. If there's any wind going, we got really lucky that day. The winds were low, virtually non-existent, so we could fly all our retardant planes. The wind level gets up around 30, 35 miles an hour. We can't fly. And that fire would have just kept going because we can't safely get in front of it to stop it. So anyway, I want to encourage you, as you're looking at your budget, to start looking at the properties the city owns and seeing what needs to be done there in the way of fuels reduction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, so I will bring it back to the council. Jim, I believe you said you had something?
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Sarga's talking about the Von Eichel property, which is the hill that is behind, what's the name of your business now? It used to be R.D. Leonard, right?
Central Heat and Air.
Central Heat and Air, right there at Millville Court. And that property was given to I think it was donated to the county, to the city rather, some years ago. And it was in obviously pretty bad shape fuels wise, and he's right, we need to be looking at some of our other areas that we own. The main thing I wanted to do is thank the fire and the police department for just yeoman's efforts, and Amy and Turu and Jennifer in particular, and Amy in double particular being unified command and running the whole operation and doing just an outstanding job. You know, that could very well come up Knowles Hill and come right into town. It could have gone up along the bypass. It could have gone up into Gibbs, as Mr. Sargo said earlier. And we were very lucky that we had planes coming from everywhere, not just Columbia, but I was looking on during the whole thing, I was looking on my app that has the radar. It tells you where all these planes are coming from. Fresno, there was another one that Porterville, I think, and Hollister. And we were lucky in that there was not despite the fire up in El Dorado, that there was enough resources that we had enough to try to get it stopped in time. But I just can't thank you guys enough. I just can't. Great job. That's all I have.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way, but I've already said it a lot of times. So yeah, there's just not, I'm just so grateful. So thank you. And then Ann and Colette, just making sure you didn't want to say anything else.
Well, I also appreciate the new fire break that the Sonora Fire Department took the leadership on, and that's back around the fire line and hopefully behind Dragoon Gulch, and that will provide another layer of resistance. But I'm a big proponent of clearing land, and so whatever I can do to make sure that property is cleared, city property is cleared, I will support that. So thank you.
I'll just say, as someone who just spent, I didn't do it. We hired someone to clear a lot of our land up on Myers Hill, and I just want to encourage everyone to participate in Firewise communities. We all need to do our part here, and then we, as the council and the city, need to do an inventory of city land and see what we can do there. With a few of the pieces that were cleared there, I actually didn't realize I had such beautiful property. They actually look much better. So anyhow, let's get Firewise communities up and running and get all this brush. Mostly it's the brush that we need to remove. Get this brush out of here. Thanks. And also just, I mean, Jim said it very well, but thank you, Chief New and Chief Vanderwill and Lieutenant, for a job very well done. So thank you. And all the agencies.
Thank you, Councilmember Sudge. Okay, so after that, we are on to item number
Mayor
6.
Hawkins, if I could, I just want to give
sorry.
credit to the field break, the contingency line that was put in along on the county's hillside there, going over to Gibbs Ranch behind Dragoon Gulch. That was in Unified Command, but that was CAL FIRE resources that we had come in to do that when we were under the active fire. So I want to make sure that they're given due credit for that as well. And then we did work with PG&E during the incident to clear the power lines up to 60 foot, 30 feet on each side, to also give protection for the power infrastructure, because as we know, the entire city and county went out during the fire. They had a main distribution line be affected by the fire. And so we wanted to make sure we're protecting that infrastructure, plus giving us a buffer in those areas to work off of in case there are any future incidents. So just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Chief New. Okay, so on to item number 6. Approve the attached budget transfer to provide initial funding to cover damages caused by the Washington fire. This one requires a 4/5 vote.
Again, council members, the item before you is written from both myself and your Administrative Services Director, Chris Gorski. This is establishing a budget unit and funding it with $50,000 of our contingency funding to start incurring the costs attributable to the Washington fire. Obviously, we have no knowledge of what the total extent of what those costs look like. This will just get us the first initial funding. We intend to probably come back before the year is done to make adjustments to this budget unit. But in the meantime, this $50,000 will allow us to start paying the expenditures attributable to Washington fire. This does require a 4/5 vote because you are pulling from your contingency line item, which requires that by government code.
Okay. Jim, Clutter in. Any questions before I turn it over to any public comment? Okay. Looking for public comment on this item. The crowd is silent tonight. Okay. So looking for any more discussion and or a motion in second.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move to approve budget transfer. Let me look, I got the right spot. Yeah, okay. The attached budget transfer, which is in our packet, to provide initial funding to cover damages caused by the Washington fire.
I'll second that.
$50,000, by the way.
Oh.
Right?
Yes.
I'll second that.
From contingencies.
Okay, so motion by Councilmember Garaventa, second by Councilmember Sudge. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins?
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa?
Aye.
Councilmember Sagerstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember Sutch?
Aye. Aye, sorry.
With Mayor Pro Tem Plummer absent.
Okay, next is on to public comment. The public may address the council on any item of public interest not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action may be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on subsequent meeting agenda. Speakers are limited to a 3-minute presentation. Okay. Whoever would like to go first. Go ahead, sir.
I have one thing I forgot to say about the fire. Sonora Area Foundation now has a fund set up called the Community Wildfire Protection Fund. that citizens can donate to, and the money is to be, there's no overhead involved. It's going to be allocated for fuels reduction on private property to help homeowners that can't afford it. So I just want to get that in the record. Sonora Area Foundation has that all set up. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so whoever's next.
It does say the mayor has the discretion under the bylaws to determine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, not
just
to
with
take
so
up-
many people here, so.
Won't take up too much of your time anyway. I have to say, ladies, I appreciate your speeches and everything that was going on tonight because I had no idea it was going to coincide with what I had to say.
I can't hear her.
Timing. So anyway,
Can you speak into the mic? We can't hear on the other.
Oh, okay. So I'm from Diamondback. I'm one of the partners. My name is Lana, and I want to begin saying that Diamondback Grill is not only a restaurant, but it is a draw to this city from other states and worldwide travelers. I get many emails from Germany, for example, regarding our restaurant and their next visit to the Gold Country. It is a family tradition, local and non-local, as it was for us until we bought it. Now it's our livelihood, as well as 40 employees. Diamondback Grill is going on 30 years downtown, 8 of which we've owned. I assume that our city administration and council are aware of all this, but if not, you know now. So my staff of 40, the other business owners, our customers, and myself deserve to know why you have taken our outdoor seating. Other than the reason that there's no mandates. Well, there is still COVID around, but there are no mandates, but another reason. Because our employees who really rely on their jobs and the other businesses that also benefit from Diamondback would like to know. We told the city administration we would move it in 10 days because of Frank's surgery, and the doctors instructed him of no lifting. So why did you feel that it was so important and such an emergency of a situation to pay city workers to sneakily come and move those tables and chairs? We deserve a legitimate answer. Or is this just a power trip for a handful of Diamondback haters? Do you want Sonora to look like Angels Camp? Hardly nothing there, hardly no businesses for tax revenue, and an almost depressing atmosphere? We have always gone to bat for the other businesses, for the brewing company, for their use of the street next to the restaurant, and the wall painting that I thought the city didn't want, for Embers to have outdoor sidewalk, extra outdoor sidewalk seating. But I guess they don't want to utilize their front sidewalk. They chose or choose to serve inside. Also, the farmers market patrons to use before we open. And lastly, Revive Coffee to utilize those tables in the morning hours for their coffee drinking customers. The city needs to work with us, not against us. It seems the city would rather spend taxpayer dollars or tax dollars cleaning
It's time.
and watering
Lana.
plants. We have feces
Yeah.
on the wall that our
Yeah,
employees have had to
it's
clean
time.
up. The city should want to
So
make this a
your time
positive,
is up,
thriving
ma'am.
place for locals and tourists to
Okay.
visit.
Your
So
time
I'd like
is
to
up,
know
please.
why, and when are you ever going to start
So
working
your
with
time
us?
is up, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh. So, Mary Rose, in this, the council, and it's pretty clear the council is, none of the council members at this time are allowed to answer. I guess this would go to our city attorney. Are we allowed to ask Mary Rose to answer any of these questions, or do we need to wait to the end of the meeting or agendize this?
Well, you could, the city administrator could answer the questions. I believe, though, this topic is before the council a little bit later in the agenda.
Yes.
So, with all due respect to the speaker, I think that we should take this up at the proper time in the public comment on the agenda item.
So, sorry, Mr. Mayor. So, Aaron, it is discussed at the end of the agenda, although this is a specific topic that happened this last week.
Yes,
If
sorry.
the council wants me to address it, I'm more than happy to address it.
Yes, and I see that it's not on for an action item now that I'm re-reviewing the agenda. So yes, Madam City Administrator could answer the questions if the council wishes for her to do that.
You okay with that, Jim? Councilmember Segestrom and such, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I've, seen her documentation and I'm fine with her presenting it.
If Mary Rose would like to answer, I think she should be allowed to.
So for the council,
Thank you, Mary Rose.
the council directed city staff on June 21st in regards to an encroachment process for the use of city sidewalks and streets for those businesses that had applied under the urgency ordinance 868 for a special outdoor operations permit. At that time, on June 21st, the state had just opened up and we were looking at a final closure of the COVID mandated policies. And at that time, businesses, restaurants in particular, were now allowed to operate at full occupancy within their established businesses. So if you recall at that time, the council discussed bringing back an item to revoke or rescind urgency ordinance 868 because of businesses allowing to be at full occupancy within their established business, but then also to look at a more permanent structure for the allow of the use, because the council did determine at the time that having some outdoor seating was still desirable. We also talked about the perceived amount of tables and chairs that were now lining Leineberg and the non-ADA compliance of the Diamondback business and their tables and chairs that were infringing upon that ADA accessibility. We talked about our sidewalks on Leineberg not being ADA compliant, and so it was extremely important to maintain that 4-foot ADA clearance between the tables or between the centerway of Leineberg. After the June 21st meeting, it was brought to my attention the Diamondback business was suffering from a lack of staff, and so was not open for a lengthy period of time. And so I did not make contact with Diamondback until mid-August, at which time I informed the business owners that the staff had the city council had directed me to work with the restaurant owners to limit the amount of tables and chairs to only 3. And that also there would be coming at a future time a way to make tables permanent on Leineberg, but that would require an encroachment process and a fee. Because as we talked about at the June 21st meeting, utilization of a city park without any type of fee is somewhat of a gift of public funds. The taxpayers are subsidizing that space for public enjoyment. And so we would need to look at a more permanent process to ensure that the Diamondback for use of that. We went back and forth. I also sent a certified letter to the owner. And at that point, when I sent a certified letter on August 25th, I let the restaurant owner that they needed to remove their tables and chairs immediately. The fire hit. I had no time privilege to look at emails coming back and forth between myself and the owner. I instructed Public Works by September 1st, if the tables and chairs had not been removed, to remove them, and to the 3 that were authorized. So that is an update.
Okay, so during this process, you started the notification process when?
On August 19th.
August 19th. And the tables were picked up when?
September 1st.
September 1st. Okay. Okay, so I just thank you. Wanted to get that out there. So I guess we were looking for more public comment unless other council members had a question for Mary Rose on that. So, okay. So looking for more public comment.
Since everyone's shy, I'll kick this off. My name's Dr. Jeff Whitman. I'm a 50-year resident of Tuolumne County. I've owned a business in the city of Sonora for 28 years. I've been on a school board as an elected official for 29 years. And I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with the city of Sonora right now. I am appalled at what the city has become over the last 5 years. And I am a person who is not anti-homeless. I've actually been one of the only veterinarians in the community to go out and serve the homeless. I've been under the Salton Creek Bridge. I've been to the camps. I've doctored their dogs. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars helping homeless in Hazel Mitchell. to provide services for the animals. The Washington fire is a wake-up call. We don't know the cause, but I think if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Case in point, last night, I was at my office working late, and a fire broke out on the Caltrans property because the gentleman there who's been there for 8 months decided to have a little cardboard bonfire. Caltrans quickly showed up and put out the fire, which was what we needed to have the man arrested. The city police told me that actually he had a felony warrant out for his arrest, that he's been there for 8 months, yet we did not know this man had a felony warrant out for his arrest. Shame on us. This is a homeless person that's been there within spitting distance of a public school who has a felony warrant out for his arrest. The fire could have been devastating. We're lucky that we live 2 miles from the end of an air attack base. Otherwise, the city would have burned. And we shouldn't rely on the air attack base to save our butts, because sometimes those S2s aren't there. I live under the airport. But I'm frustrated with the homeless issue. And I'm frustrated that we have been told, or the police have been told by previous council mayors, to leave the homeless alone. We need to give them a hand up, not a hand out. And if we want to help them, it isn't by turning over the city to them and they're awful. I spent the weekend, on Labor Day, I spent the weekend cleaning up dried diarrhea from homeless on my property, because I can't ask my employees to do that, because it's a hazmat issue. It could be Hep B, Hep C. We need to do something to change this, and the wheels of justice need to turn. And sometimes the best thing we can do for somebody is to let the wheels of justice work and let the police arrest these people for their obvious crimes. I know a person who was a meth addict who was on the street, and when he got arrested, we raised our hands and said, hallelujah. He ended up getting into the program down at San Francisco, and now is off of meth because he got clean by being arrested. I see I have seconds left. I don't have enough time to go into this, but you guys need to do something about the homeless issue. It's a problem.
Whoever wants to come up, please. And I just want to let the public know that I really would love to respond to this. And if you want to contact me or email me, I'm usually pretty good about getting back, but I would love to respond to this. I legally can't right now. So go ahead,
Members
sir.
of the council, my name is Richard Staley. I live at 18649 Vista Drive in Jamestown. So why am I here speaking to the Sonora City Council? The VTC presentation you just saw led us to believe that vistas, scenic vistas, are critical to bringing people into our county. My vista now is a hillside across Highway 108 that is scarred by fire. There's a potential homicide crime scene at the top of that hill. I'm moving a little bit slowly tonight, so forgive me, because I hurt my back seriously evacuating, fleeing for my life, because that fire, Washington fire, started at the entrance to our community. In the past few months, we have had, that I know of, at least 6 instances of people looking into windows of the granddaughter of our next door neighbor. One of my neighbors at 2:37 in the morning, 2 days before the fire, had someone tapping on his window. My next door neighbor, another neighbor, had people hunching over in our hills, over above our hillside, looking down, observing what was going on in the backyard late at night. The gentleman or the person was smoking a cigarette. Two fathers drove an individual who was watching their children play on the street, drove him out of our community. There are numerous instances like that. What you do, like the fire, does not pay attention to city lines or county lines. We're all in this together. We shop local, we live here, we moved here because we fled San Jose, because just across the retaining wall from our condominium, there was one of these camps, and we came up here to escape that. And now we're finding instances that are critical to public safety, to life safety. We're finding instances of people urinating and defecating into Woods Creek. We cannot walk on a trail because there is a camp at the end of that trail. That camp may even be on city property, I don't know. We came here tonight and there were people down in one of the camps, back like they were before the fire. There are people, I think, on the other side. What you do affects us all. It's not just a Sonora issue, it's a Tuolumne County issue. And we live, we shop here, we love this community, and we need your help because this issue has transcended what we can do with neighborhood watches and Firewise communities and things like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I'm sorry, council members. Sorry, somebody's on the phone.
Didn't know if you wanted us from staff to respond to any of that.
I will hear the comment, but
Sorry, I didn't
if
see that.
staff can respond, like I said, I got to do everything legally, but staff should be able to respond to this, and it's not falling on a non-hearing ear. Yeah, deaf ear.
Okay.
So.
My name's Pam Gracia. I live in Jamestown. I don't have a whole lot to say. I think the people before me pretty much said and expressed what I'm feeling as well as my husband. I just want to express that what we sat through your presentation of Tuolumne County and Sonora was wonderful. None of that is going to matter if we don't fix this homeless problem because there won't be a Tuolumne County. I'm sitting next to a lady that lived in Oroville and she had to move because of the Paradise Fire. And that is going to happen in this county if we don't get a hold of it. And we have homeless down in Jamestown, in between. It's very scary. I've lived here my whole life. I've never seen it like it is. It's horrific. It's scary. And I know that you know. I'm just wanting to express and continue on what the other folks have said. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Monique Holcomb. I'm also a resident of Millvilla. And I'm here to make a few comments about observations. One, I don't know that you are aware. I think that there has been a very vocal minority that shows up and puts issues before you. And I think as a county, we need to start representing our hometown values as well. So I'm here to tell you that aside from the incidents my neighbor shared with you, that there have also been, as far as I am aware, about 8 break-ins, stolen tools. There's constant traffic along the PG&E access road back to the railroad tracks. So part of, I feel the problem is communication, in that most of my neighbors are unaware that this has been going on in our own neighborhood for the last 3 months. I don't think you're aware of how big the problem is either, because no one's talking about it. So I think we need to start talking about it and finding ways to communicate when these events are happening and that they get reported every time so that you are aware how big of a problem it is. So I wanted to say that I don't think that it's a time to blame people, but to come up with solutions, actual solutions. And I work on Washington Street. There is an enormous increase of traffic with homeless on our downtown, beautiful downtown street. So oftentimes when I come to work in the morning, there are people camped out on those benches. And I can't imagine, with your willingness to invest in tourism, that you're okay with that either. But real solutions have to happen. People shouldn't drive in Stockton, their first visit here to Sonora, past a camp, which is apparently refilling. So I want to know what's happening with keeping that camp closed. And I know it's not your specific issue, but partnering with the county, with the other homeless camps along the railroad tracks, because we know there's several, and our neighborhood is virtually surrounded. So I feel like we deserve better than that as individuals and as a collective town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is George Brokima. I have been a business owner in the city of Sonora for over 20 years. Our business has been there since 1994. We are privileged to have the summer homeless camp directly behind our business on the other side of the train tracks. So when the weather's nice, they move their camp closer to Safeway and other businesses where they can panhandle and break into cars and things like that. We have daily interactions with homeless people walking through our parking lot on the way to the cigarette store or Walmart or Safeway or whatever. And in the past, the interactions sometimes turned nasty, either because they weren't in a very good mood and some of my employees might have said the wrong thing. And then lo and behold, the next day, we had 8 cars have their tires slashed, which it's documented with Taru and the Sonora PD. One day we had another unfriendly altercation, and I got a call at 3 in the morning by my alarm company. I had a brick through my front window. And so I've told my employees, be nice. Don't be aggressive, because it's better to be friendly with them versus having me wake up at 3 in the morning by our alarm company. And so by giving them free food and free showers and all this, it's wonderful. And as a Christian, I'm kind of torn over helping people or enabling people. And we need to try to help people, not enable them by giving them all this free stuff. My neighbors on both sides of me have had dozens of situations just like mine. One of my neighbors has a fifth wheel that he stores in a fenced yard by Sonora Transmission. The homeless broke into it, and when everybody was gone, they'd sneak in, and they were sleeping in his fifth wheel for weeks before one day he went out there to open it up and he realized it was a pretty ugly scene inside. So the homeless issue is not going to go away. I want to challenge the board members. I watched this video on YouTube a couple years ago. It's called Seattle is Dying. It's actually a great video. It's 1 hour long, and they took Seattle and they studied it, and they discovered that 99.9% of the homeless had a chemical dependency. Well, they took a town in Rhode Island that was able to solve their homeless issue through a different type of plan. And I challenge the board members here and by Zoom tonight, as an extracurricular activity, watch the movie Seattle is Dying. It might give us some insight on how we as a community can solve this problem. Because we're not as big as Seattle. We're about as big as the small town in Rhode Island. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
I just wanted to add, my name is Sandy Thomason, and we have been, and I'm going to talk about the state property, which is the Motherlode Fairgrounds. One of the issues that you probably aren't aware of is for years, we used to camp down at the fair. The kids would bring the trailers in. They'd sleep down there with their animals. You know, we'd barbecue, and it was a big family thing. Part of that family thing was all the little brothers and sisters would play in the creek, and they would search for crawdads. They haven't been able to do that for a number of years because the homeless people are traveling up and down that creek, and there's drug paraphernalia, there's feces, and we have to watch the kids because on your property, they're walking Southgate into whatever homeless camp they're going to at any given time. And you need to be made aware of that. And the kids stay right at the livestock area now. They don't go down to the creek. They don't, and we have to watch them because of the people that are still traveling back and forth in that open area back there. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like.
Hello, my name is Don Nessel. Can I take this off to speak? I've lived here for about 44 years. My wife has lived here her entire life, and she's fifth generation or so Tuolumne County people. We've also watched the homeless situation. I've been to Camp Hope a couple times, just kind of cruising through. One time I was acting ignorant, and I said, my goodness, what is this place? And the guy said, oh, this is Camp Hopeless. I said, oh, no. He says, yeah, this is where people go to die. I go, really? I said, what's with you guys? What's with all this garbage? Don't you know how to clean up after yourself? What's with this junk over here? They said, hey, we don't have any dumpsters. I said, really? You don't have a dumpster? What if I contracted and had a dumpster brought here? Would you clean up your own mess? Oh, yeah, we would. We'd keep this place a lot cleaner. I don't know if that's true or not, but what I do need to say is if we had the who knows how much money, a couple $1 million it cost to fight that fire, if you went ahead and made budget proposals to design facilities that could help these people, give them a hand up, not a handout, expect them to pay some money possibly for the facility. I'm thinking of a nice campground like is up in the high country with fire rings, because they insist on making fires. No matter what you do, they're gonna make fires. Safe fires with management that is there with the city of Sonora property along Southgate Drive. Nobody can really see that except the TUD employees driving in and out, or you guys be going in and out of there. And have it organized with a manager who cruises through, finds people that are laid out sick as a dog on drugs or alcohol or what so forth, get them into programs, but you don't let them pay nothing. They got money. They buy cigarettes, they buy alcohol, they do all this stuff. They buy drugs. So maybe there could be a way to put a budget proposal in there towards the homeless. I agree, Jim. It's not criminal to be homeless, but they do criminal stuff. Drug use, alcohol use, messing with people, acting goofy. That's not criminal. Too bad. But anyway, I think there's something that could be done on a positive aspect. I personally will pay for the dumpster at the wherever you build this facility. I volunteer to pay for that, however big a dumpster, probably a pretty big one. They bring junk from everywhere. Anyway, I pledge to be part of the financial solution and part of maybe the citizen group that goes in periodically to meet them and talk with them and see what's going on with them. I challenge you also.
Thank you.
Hello. I was not going to talk, but you all inspired me to talk. So many of you know that I'm a retired deputy sheriff, and I would just like to say that along with the other great suggestions, if you would also look up the broken window theory, Mayor Rudolph Giuliani had great success lowering the murder rate in New York several decades ago by implementing that. Anybody who's been in law enforcement knows of the broken window theory. So if you just take a moment to read that, and really for the audience, what it says is that if you stop the lowest level crimes, the larger ones do not happen. And so I just would urge you to research that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Hello, my name is Ed Greer, and I'm a little worked up here with some of the testimonies. Going back to the Diamondback, one thing I really enjoy about the Diamondback is it's a very good attraction to Sonora. And the idea that the city is working against some of the things that are positive about the Diamondback is very annoying to me, because I think we should be supporting these businesses, these small businesses. As we noticed the last year, we had all these giant corporations were open while small businesses were being shut down. That's similar to what I'm seeing here, and I don't think it's fair. So I know she was pretty upset, and I understand I would probably be the same way. So regarding this homeless thing, gonna jump. I'm hearing I've been talking and helping some homeless people lately, and their testimony is there's some really violent people in that place that Don was just mentioning. And they're scaring everybody to death that's in the homeless place. And I'm wondering who they could be, but I don't know if the police is doing anything about it. And I think that should be looked at as well, because I think there was a murder recently. Is that true? I think so, right? I was hearing that there was a murder, but at any rate, there was some fear of this from these homeless people. And I don't think, even though, like we said, it's not against the law to be homeless, but they should be free from fearing being murdered. And so that's one other thing, and I'm going to jump real quick again. Mandated masks. It's been proven over and over again by science that they're not helpful. Over and over again.
Yeah, sorry, it kind of threw me for a loop there. That is actually something we're going to be bringing up. So
Okay.
if you want to hold that comment for that item,
Okay.
I'm more than welcome to take it.
Okay. And the other last thing is the 39 seconds, let's see. Blue, the white, yeah. The COVID has been compared to the flu. There's so many different medicines that now are helping to get people over that flu very, very quickly and very surely. And it's wonderful that that's happening, but there's no discussion about it. All we keep talking about is getting a vaccination. And that's just got to change. We've got to start talking about the positive things that are taking place with people. So that's what I would say in that regard. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Okay, first of all, I want to thank everyone for being very respectful. I just want to let everyone know, like, I really want to talk about it, but I can't. But legally, I can ask our city administrator to address a little bit of this homelessness and the homelessness issues, the vagrant issues, and what the council and mainly city staff has been doing.
And just to make sure we're in compliance with the Brown Act, City Attorney Durbin, I'm just going to make sure that it's in general, so we're not talking about any specific agendized item. And just so the public is aware, we actually had agendized a community discussion on August 30th, but unfortunately about homelessness and the ability for the city to create a shelter to address some of these major issues that we're seeing here in the city of Sonora. Unfortunately, because of the fire, we had to cancel that town hall, but we are rescheduling it to the end of September. I believe September 28th. We haven't made that official announcement yet, but we will be at the end of September continuing this conversation, because we completely understand your frustration. We hear it every day. We are talking about it every day here as city staff. I'm talking about it every day to your city council as well. I think there is, when we talk about properties such as your Caltrans properties, next to Dr. Whitman's property, also across the street from Camp Hope there on the city's jurisdiction. So Camp Hope, unfortunately, is in the county jurisdiction, and the city has no ability to regulate any of the homeless population within that jurisdiction. That is the county's jurisdiction, and they are working through a code enforcement process with the current property owner. As far as the Caltrans property on the other side, the city has reached out numerous times to Caltrans to work with the city to survey the property to ensure that there is a delineated Caltrans right away versus our private property where we can work with property owners. I will say, from a staff perspective, it is extremely frustrating on the lack of response that we are receiving from Caltrans to deal with any of these homeless camps. So mainly that one in the Caltrans City of Stockton Road jurisdiction, and then also now in that Caltrans property there on Greenlee Road and Mono Way. So unfortunately, from the city's perspective, we do not have a legal right to go onto Caltrans property, which is state-owned property, and to mandate anything when it comes to camps on state property. And because of the issuance of COVID, the state forcibly said that we could not do anything about homeless camps during the COVID pandemic. And I know that's not what the public wants to hear. I know the public wants to see action. I think the city council did set goals in February to look at the homeless problem and to make solutions. And we talked about looking at solutions. One of the things that the city is doing, and we've talked about this in open session, so I think I can talk about this now in public, is that the only way the city of Sonora can mandate no camping ordinances or no homeless on public lands, which include the city of Sonora and include Caltrans property, is to have enough shelter space available to allow that population to move to shelter space. So the city of Sonora is looking at ways to create additional shelter space. That is the only way legally we can move homeless populations off of public land. That is the only way.
What is the statute on that? Do you have a code?
That's coming from the governor's office. And that
It's
was
actually,
also
there was
coming
there was a United States Supreme Court case out of Idaho, city of Boise, and it was about sleeping in public. And the edict from the United States Supreme Court is just what Mary Rose kind of summarized, that only if the municipality has sufficient shelter space, and it's a percentage kind of based on the numbers of population, can they then enforce any kind of vagrant kind of laws like that.
Yeah, and so I know it's extremely frustrating. So the city is trying to do all that we can within our limited financial resources. Homelessness money funds through what are called Continuum of Cares, which is a multi-county jurisdictional agency that then ultimately flows through the county. The city at this point does not receive a dime of homelessness funding through this collaboration. So through our own limited capacity, we are trying to scrape up the resources to address a shelter issue, to be able to start being able to move persons off of camps. And I understand the frustration. I get it from a city staff and a city administrator, and I know from the city council, we are frustrated as well. And I know Lieutenant Hanula, I don't know if you want to bring up as far as the criminal element. I know because we talked about it earlier about how hard it is to cite or even to get people that we arrest to stay in jail for any length of time.
So I would love when the town hall gets rescheduled, because we did put together some information for you guys to kind of answer everyone's questions in one setting, to kind of give it all, because we're just as frustrated. We go out and we deal with this all the time. And it is, we will, if we find a individual that we deem or called in as homeless, and they have those shopping carts full of everything, in order to get that shopping cart to be deemed a stolen property, we also have to have the store say, yes, that's ours, and we want prosecution. That doesn't happen very often. And so we can't arrest for that. If that cart, if they have a misdemeanor warrant, like the gentleman did the other day, it was a misdemeanor warrant, we can take into custody everything in that shopping cart, then has to be itemized and booked at our facility and taken care of, whether it's garbage, whether it's whatever. It is deemed as value to that individual. We have to store that. We have to store it up to a year. So it gets very difficult with our limited area. And most of the time, by the time we take them to the facility, the jail has cited and released them, and they beat us back to our office to get their belongings. But I can't just give it to them. We still have to inventory it, put it in the system, and then release it. So that is kind of how the law has pushed us into a back corner, and it's very frustrating because everything that used to be a criminal act where we could arrest is not really a criminal act anymore. They've lessened that. Having them to have the ability to be housed somewhere in order for us to move them along has also become an issue. So we feel it just as much as you feel it. We have to work with behavioral health and the other organizations, because just putting them in custody is not working. We need to have the behavioral health treatment, the drug treatment, and those other options. And so that's a lot of agencies coming together to put the bills together and pay those bills together and not just leave it to one entity. And so we are trying to come up with solutions. We're hoping that town hall meeting brings other ideas, and so we can kind of address different ideas together, because it is frustrating. Our call service, we'll get calls all the time. There's 3 homeless people, they're walking here, they're acting funny, they're talking to themselves. That's not a criminal act for a law enforcement to respond to. And it's sad, because I might be on that, why your wife's needing something because her purse was stolen, right? So we have to figure out which ways we can do it, and if we get into a confrontation with that individual when there was no criminal act, then your city's on the hook for that. So we have to be very careful on how we respond to these, and what our law allows us to do, because we're understand your frustration. We absolutely do, absolutely, because I came from Stan County where we did a tent city, and we put them all to in one area. We provided housing, we did it. And that system also failed. There was some success, but there was ultimate failure. And when I applied for this job, I did a presentation on homelessness with the Seattle and with the broken window theory. So I'm very into it. I understand it. And so we're trying to look for those solutions. It's just not going to be a quick overnight. It's not. I wish it was, right? But it's not. And you need lawmakers to change the law. You can say that. Can you say it louder?
So,
yeah, we definitely need different laws put into place. Definitely laws that don't tie our hands.
And just one final comment, Mr. Mayor, just for the council and the public to be aware. Myself and Councilmember Such have been extremely active in the county homelessness task force in coming up with the solutions from a county-centric look. And so we are looking at different avenues in different capacity, looking at different funding structures, different shelter space options, navigation centers, and working with not just your governmental entities, but also working with all the nonprofits and others that are affected. So I understand bureaucracy moves at an extremely slow pace, and we don't want to be shifting any of the blame, but we understand the frustration, and within the confines of the law, we are trying our best to be able to address and to create solutions for this.
Please come to that town hall meeting when they do post it, because we could definitely use input and work together as a community to kind of solve our issues. And then branch out to the county and the rest of the area, so we appreciate that.
So just to let everyone know, because again, it's the way the laws work. I didn't decide them in the way the public meeting laws work. I encourage everyone here, get a hold of me. I've got lots of good ideas on how to deter a lot of this homelessness without interaction, and I would love to discuss it more. I can tell you where we're at on things and what our council members are doing, because each council member is actually addressing something like this in their own way. So with that, I don't think I have anything else. So we'll move on. If everyone would like to leave, we can take a 30-second pause, or whoever would like to leave. I mean, I'd love it if everybody stayed for the meeting, but. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you.
Bye, Monique. Bye.
You'll see me again.
I hope so. I hope so. Do we want to take a couple minutes? Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break. I gotta go to the bathroom anyway. We'll give it another minute. By the way, if y'all know anybody that wants a, just, yeah, we're waiting on Colette. If y'all know anybody that knows anything about assembling electronics, there's a job waiting for them at Digital Power Corporation. One of our assemblers just left, or she's leaving. She put in her 2 weeks notice. She just got a great opportunity. So probably 20 something an hour to solder. If you know something about it, Jim, let me know. Okay, so let's call us back from break at 7:09. And now we only have 2 members of the public, and thank you. Oh, well, 3. Oh, I'm sorry, Kate. Katie, you're like family.
We just
Katie.
think you're one of us.
Yeah, you're like family. I mean, you're like there, so. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar considered routine and we voted on in one motion unless a council member or member of the public has a question or wishes to discuss an item. In that case, the item will be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. So, consent calendar, any discussion? I will look for public comment. Make sure I don't forget anybody. No public comment on the consent calendar, so we'll bring it back.
So I'll go ahead and move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Garaventa, second by Councilmember Segestrom. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins,
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Aye.
Councilmember Sagerstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember Sutch,
Aye.
with Mayor Pro Tem Plummer absent.
Okay, passes 4-0. On to unfinished business. Approve the use of face mask and public capacity limits in city-owned facilities per the recommendation of the Tuolumne County Public Health Officer. Mary Rose.
Council members, this item is coming before you as it was directed by the council on August 16th. They directed staff to agendize for discussion and possible action to update the guidance on the use of the face mask in city-owned facilities per the recommendation of the Tuolumne County Public Health Officer. If you recall, on July 6th, the City Council voted 3-2 to allow individuals to self-attest that are fully vaccinated or to meet approved mask exemptions and require all those others to wear a mask during public meetings within City Hall. Since that time, the Public Health Officer's recommendation has been that within indoor facilities, regardless of vaccination status, due to the increase in the cases due to the Delta variant, that masks should be worn at all times regardless of vaccination status. Due to that recommendation, the county has required indoors within their facilities wearing a face mask regardless of vaccination status. Also, since we last spoke to the council, the public health officer also updated their recommendation as far as gatherings are concerned and recommended that there be a limit to 50 persons or less within public spaces, or to look at mitigating circumstances as far as moving your event outdoors or requiring COVID testing status prior to admittance within a facility. And we bring this up because Sonora obviously owns the Opera Hall. We have a number of events that are going to be happening within the fall period, and we would like to have some sort of direction from the City Council in regards to the limitation of persons within a city-owned facility. So at this time, we are recommending that the council approve the use of face masks and public capacity limits in city-owned facilities per the recommendation of the Tuolumne County Public Health Officer.
Any questions?
Yeah. So assuming that eventually the Delta variant will be dealt with or go down or whatever, if this goes to effect, we would just bring it back up, or does council have to give direction to bring it back up, or how is that mechanism to rescind?
That's a good question, because this is not a mandate. I just want you to know this is not a mandate from the public health officer. This is a recommendation. So we don't see an actual health order coming out as far as coming from the public health department in regards to these. This under CDPH, the requirement still stands that those that are unvaccinated must self-attest and wear a mask at any times within indoors in a public space. And so that is currently where we stand. Now, based on the recommendation of our Tuolumne County Public Health Officer, which is stating that they recommend utilization of masks, I would think that any rescinding of the mask would come with any type of reduction of that recommendation. So generally, we see.
I guess then I would ask her or ask that it be. So I guess when assuming that this passes, that when the health officer changes his guidelines, then we would just go ahead and agendize it at the very next meeting, rather than going through the process of waiting to, asking and waiting, because it seemed like it was. We need quicker turnaround time is what I'm getting at.
No, I agree.
On all of these things.
Councilmember Garaventa, so during the COVID crisis in 2020, when mandates went in, we didn't bring them before the council. The issue why we brought issues in front of council is because of CDPH's rule that allowed jurisdictions to choose one of three options. And that was why we did the July 6th vote, which was allowing the self-attestation requiring it of all individuals and so forth. And so we
Right.
brought that forward to the council to be able to decide, because there were 3 different options that could be utilized. At this point, we can agendize something quickly after the recommendation is withdrawn. Sorry, Chris, would you mind? Because I'm trying to lean into
That's
the
right.
mic and I'm trying to see Councilmember Caravanza. Or like in the case that was already happening, anytime anything was rescinded, we automatically put that into play. That's what we were doing previously. This
Right.
only became an issue because there was an option for the council
Okay,
to choose.
okay.
If I could, Councilmember Garaventa, the council could take an action to divest the discretion about facial coverings or about the reduction in, capacity to the city administrator to order or to make the, directive in compliance with what the public health officer's current recommendation might be. That might be a way to not have to, perhaps have this on once a month or every other month for an update. The concern is that, as we've seen, these recommendations can change, quickly, or the executive orders of the governor might take effect, 3 or 4 days from now when he's signing today. And so you're right, we're going to get into this rat race about, trying to stay on top of it or ahead of it. And given that the city has the highest obligation to protect its employees, I think it is important to have the discretion or some discretion in the city administrator to be able to modify the proscriptions, if you will, in city-owned buildings or in city workplaces in order to ensure the highest level of protection.
Frankly, I would be, well, it's up to the rest of you, but I'd be happy with that rather than having to come back to the council all the time to, but that's my thought. I don't know what anyone else has to say.
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Such.
You're on mute, Colette.
Can't hear you.
It's 'cause
Throw me the
your dog
ball.
was-
Throw me the ball, by the way, huh?
I'm sorry, I have to entertain this dog or she'll start barking. I really like that suggestion, Aaron. Just that the city administrator, following the directive of the public health officer, can enact public health officer guidelines, and when it's less stringent, doesn't have to. I mean, maybe it'd be nice if she gave us a heads up, but she doesn't have to put us together or anything.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I think it's nimble and it's responsible, and that's all.
And it follows the science, because the science will dictate. And so I agree.
Okay. I was a little surprised, to tell you the truth. Is not surprised that this came before us because we asked for it, but surprised there wasn't more meat in it, because there's the one part where the Tuolumne County Health Officer recommended it, but my understanding there's some insurance things that have to do with the city.
So that's coming in a COVID prevention plan, and due to the fire, I did not have the capacity to put all that together.
Yes.
But the COVID prevention plan talks in regards to requirements of employees to self-attestation in writing as far as their vaccination status. So.
And that's part of our that's not a city council thing. See, I can talk about this. That's not a city council thing, but that is part of it. The insurance company that we are a part of, how many cities, like 50 cities or something we're together with.
Management.
And that is some of the guidelines that are coming down from them to us. So yeah, there's that part of it too.
Yeah, increases our liability if we don't.
Yeah.
And right now, OSHA regs are a little bit behind some of the more generous county or municipality provisions. And so OSHA regs are a little bit tighter as far as protecting, again, employees. So I expect those OSHA regs to be updated. But again, like Mary Rose has pointed out, and we all have been hearing, the Delta variant and the the spike in cases, OSHA may kind of keep things as they are for the next, 60 or 90 days as well. So it is a more conservative approach as far as the masking indoors or the reduction in the, indoor events, but it's probably what your RMA ultimately is going to be expecting as well.
And, and I've got some more stuff I can add to this pretty easy, but this is not any kind of mandate for any kind of vaccination. And this is not a Nazi style show your cards pass to get in City Hall, correct?
No, and even though with all candor, Mayor, the city could order their employees to be vaccinated. We're not going there. I understand the line in the sand. No one's trying to get political, but I have yet to see any city or special district that's mandating vaccinations for customers, let's say, citizens to come into the building. No one's doing that. It's just too aggressive, if you will, at this stage. But the other, prophylactic, social distancing, the masks, many cities are continuing to require that and are continuing to keep the reduced, capacity in their city buildings, the ones that they rent out, or even, the ones that the public comes into on a regular basis, just because, again, it's the most protective of the employees.
Yeah, and public health isn't a political issue. Public health is a health issue.
It shouldn't be, right?
Right.
Maybe it shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously divided some of this council, and I know, and I was going to say this part at the end of our meeting, but I know every single one of us are not making any kind of money being on this council, and many of us, I think actually all of us, Jim, I know you get the crap into the stick on a lot of this, but because you're the most public a lot of times, but we each have differing opinions, and I think the masks are almost a joke at times, but again, there's some validity in some of the science for sure. I'm not going to argue that, but again, we go back and forth.
It's just the common sense part of it to me.
Yeah, and my problem is the simple fact that now we've got our group health insurance mandating some of this, and I don't want to do anything that costs the city money. That's my big thing. The other thing I want to make it very clear to the public and to our city employees, this is not any kind, because I know it'll be misconstrued, this is not any kind of a mandate for a forced vaccination or a Nazi style show your cards type situation, because again, I want to put that out there. So the other question I do have, if we approve this, if it's approved, then I got one more comment. It's probably gonna make some people laugh, and I don't know, some others get mad at me. Not on the council. I'm not worried about that. With this, if we go back to wearing masks, does that mean that Councilmember Such and Councilmember Segestrom would come back to the meetings? How is that going to work? I'm not trying to put y'all on the spot, but I'm trying to figure out, would you come back to the meetings then? Would you feel more comfortable?
I would be more comfortable with universal mask wearing, yes.
But what I would like to say about that is masking is covering your nose. It's not covering just your mouth or your chin or your Adam's apple or your whatever. I mean, I will not come back to council meetings if everyone in the room, in fact, not just city council, but noses need to be covered. That's where the virus lives. So that's all. But yes, I would absolutely come back.
So could we put that in part of a motion then?
What, that we're going to come back?
Yes.
I don't think it should be in.
Well, yeah, covered to me. I think if you're going to have a mask on, it definitely covers the nose.
But it often does. That's all.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't, I'm sorry, go on, Matt. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't want whether or not, I will certainly come back where things are right now. If if our numbers can get worse, I may, or if there's another variant, or if, I don't know. I don't really think that whether we show up in person or not should be part of the motion. And believe me, I would prefer to be there in person.
I would love
I
to
don't
have
want-
you and Ann back here. That honest to goodness truth. I would love for you two to be back here. It's a lot easier to
Yeah,
work together versus over the camera.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think we are disadvantaged by Zooming, frankly. So we would like to be back.
You have anything to add to that?
No, not at all. I'd like to see the public.
Yeah.
Get on with it.
So I'll turn it over to public comment. Okay, we'll turn it over to public comment.
Thank you for the opportunity. So there was a big surge in case levels, and everybody's trying to figure out what happened. And I heard people say, we think it's the unvaccinated that is causing this. Unvaccinated people who are well are causing that. And the non-mask wearers. And this guy was, what do they call it? They have a term for it, non-vaxxers or whatever. But I observed something different. And that is in July, prior to this big surge, I live across from the Sierra Bible Church. They vaccinated hundreds and hundreds of people. I also noted in July that everybody started wearing masks again, where we were starting to be comfortable and wise that breathing and letting your immune system work well was a good idea. That disappeared. In August, after all of these vaccinations and all of this mask wearing, which is supposed to reduce the case rates, there's this surge. My theory is maybe the vaccine is different than it's understood to be. In the Pfizer site, it talks about where people with vaccines emit something. It's called vaccine. Anyway, where they cause other people to become sick because they got the vaccine. And the idea with Pfizer was, with this technology, they could get everybody involved and everybody would become herd immunity. Therefore, if all these people got vaccinated, they could be the ones who are actually spreading and the reason for the surge. So I personally am a non-masker and a non-vaxxer, or whatever we call those things, as we need to label people, I guess. But the reason that I have not worn a mask is there's no data point. There's no data point in all this of how many people have become sick or died who were faithful mask wearers. But the only people in my sphere of influence who became sick or died were faithful mask wearers. Everyone else, my entire family and all of the construction workers I work with, water and wastewater operators,
30
are
seconds.
non-mask wearers. Yeah, I saw it. You watching my time, honey? So the deal is, I think there is a problem with the narrative. Masks and vaccines are not the answer. There are some other types of cures that do work that everybody's ignoring and saying that is bad science, that is bad information, and we won't listen to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One of the things, again, my name is Ed Greer. One of the things that I think that's not talked about enough is that according to the CDC, 99.5% of people who have had the COVID virus are survived. Now that's a pretty huge number. And we put a lot of emphasis on this fear that, oh, if I get this COVID thing, I'm gonna die. And that's really very sad and regrettable that that kind of a scenario is being painted for people because it makes people afraid when they don't really need to be afraid. Now, I'm not saying it's not a dangerous virus, because it has killed many, many people. But also, that PCR test that they take has been adjusted so that it can go negative or positive, depending on whoever is doing the test. And that's not right either, that we're using those numbers to create what they want to call a pandemic. This is not a pandemic. It's no different than the flu in regards to numbers. And that's what's really regrettable, is that we've scared the whole nation to death. And then turn on the news and it's always about death. It's always about someone dying. But they don't realize that that one person that died was out of millions and millions of people. But they make such a big story of it. So I would just say that in regards to masks, masks aren't really a help. They've shown that over and over again. The tests continue to show that masks are not beneficial to preventing a virus spreading. It goes right through the mask. So, and then the other thing too is when children have to wear masks, all that bacteria is collected within their mask. It becomes a trap, and they're breathing it over and over and over again. So those are the kind of things that I think that really needs to be taken into consideration without using, scare tactics to freak people out. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? You're Switzerland, I know. That's oh, goodness. Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council. I'll throw it out there like I always do. I'm not going to get into the science part of it. I'm not a scientist. I've read a lot, not on Facebook or YouTube. I do actually read a good bit. So one of the things I'll throw out there, and I'm waiting for the Tuolumne County politics side, there's a bunch of ways that the virus can spread. I know one of them is through air. It's like an aerosol is what I heard one doctor describe it as. And one of the things that happens with the virus is that people's stomach tend to get upset. Now, this is not on everyone, but it's like 80, 85%. People's stomach will get severely upset, like they've got a stomach flu at one point or another. And what happens when you get sick to your stomach? You pass a lot of gas. The masks don't stop the gas, and it's one way you can get contagious, and that is science. That's a fact. Now, Councilmember Such brought up something, or maybe it was Segestrom, brought up something as very much a fact, is the virus lives in the nose. And one of the things I have read is that people who do regular nasal type flushing tend to have better resistance. Have better resistance to the virus. So that, it's just something else, again, part of the science that I will throw out there. But that goes along with colds and viruses and that sort of thing. So I guess I'll ask for a motion in a second, and then we'll go from there.
Or do you want discussion?
Or any more, if there's any more discussion. I think I put Ann to sleep.
No. I am awake.
I'm just wondering, I won't even go there. People wear.
Well, so would the motion then be that we allow the city administrator to follow the guidelines of the county public health officer? Is that the motion?
Yes, I would think that we can formulate it that, again, we give her the discretion to order. And again, this is in city-owned facilities, city buildings, et cetera, to defer to the public health officer's recommendation.
I move that we give the city administrator the direction to follow the guidelines of the Tuolumne County Public Officer as it affects our county properties and buildings and employees.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Sagestrom, second by Councilmember Such. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins,
Nope.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Yes.
Councilmember Segerstrom,
Yes.
and Councilmember Such.
Yes.
Passes 3, 1, and 0, because Mark's not here.
Right.
Okay. On to item number 9, consideration of retroactively approving the emergency agreement for professional services dated August 23rd, 2021 with CSG Consultants Incorporated and authorize the city administrator to sign the agreement. Mary Rose.
Mr. Mayor and council members, this item is actually coming before you from your Community Development Director, Rochelle Kellogg. This is in regards to an emergency professional services agreement, and she's going to go into detail of why we've deemed it an emergency. So,
Is she okay?
I'm sorry, I sucked in some air. And we've been fighting a little bit of a cold around here. So anyway, we did bring this forward as an emergency agreement. We worked with the city administrator through this process. As I state in my staff report from 2014 to current day, we have been using contracted inspectors from the city for the city services. Prior to that, Steve Fickle, who had been with the city for many, many years, retired. The then city administrator had us switch to a contracted service for this position. And so that is what we did. From that point forward, we worked with Interwest Consulting Group, who provided these services to us and really did an excellent job back in that day. We had Darren Wardell, Will Crew, and Landon Collins was our last inspector. And I can't say enough about those three gentlemen. They were phenomenal. They were very easy to work with, and they really cared about the city. Unfortunately, there was a purchase of Interwest from a company out of Colorado, and it really does appear that their customer services related to the state of California is probably not their highest priority. A lot of the staff have left, including some of the people that we worked in the past when we first entered into the contract with them. And so there is a shift in management and the services being provided. So there were some changes. Landon did provide his 2-week notice to that company. He also let the city know. And we reached out to Interwest because we were concerned we wouldn't have an inspector. And they didn't get back to us for several days. They finally did and said, well, we're going to do our best, but maybe you should talk to the county and see if you can contract with them for these services, because we can't guarantee you that we're going to be able to get an inspector. After that comment was made, we actually did talk to the county just to make sure we had backup, and they were more than gracious to help us if we got stuck. But they also recommended CSG because they've used them in the past and they continue to do so. And so we reached out to CSG. Another couple of other cities had also recommended them. They got right on it. Jeff James, who we work with at CSG, actually used to work for Interwest, and he was our building official for a short time before he left there. And they scrambled and they found an inspector, and they were able to provide one, so we did not have a lap in services and have to use the county. And to this day, Interwest we still have a contract with them. They have not reached out to us about an inspector. So in order to not have a gap in services and be able to provide services to our customers, the public, Mary Rose agreed that this was an emergency situation, and she worked with me and the consultant to get an agreement in place, as well as the city attorney's office, and we were able to get this agreement in place, but we needed to do it before the council meeting so that we didn't have a lap of service. And that's why you guys are doing it as a retroactive approval.
just a couple other things to add. We deemed it an emergency, obviously, as Rochelle stated, but also from a public contracting perspective, to be able to sole source to CSG instead of going through a bid process, because this is building inspection services and it's a critical function of cities and businesses and residents within the city of Sonora. We needed to make sure that contract was in place and we had the personnel to continue on with those services. The other thing I want to add in this contract, because we have not had a lot of interest in our full-time city planner position, we asked CSG to provide us additional services offerings along in this contract. And one of those additional service offerings is city planning services. So we are hoping to utilize CSG from a part-time situation to kind of fill in on a city planner personnel basis until we can hire full-time. So that's why you're seeing an additional scope under this contract, so that we can utilize those services, as we are, again, lacking in city planner personnel as well.
And they would be able to provide engineering services for construction management type situations. So Mary Rose had them include that as well. So we do have that in there as well, so that we have that option available to us.
Any questions from the council? Go ahead, Colette.
Thanks. In addition to just the city planner and the engineering services aside, are there any other differences between this agreement with CSG and Interwest? Is everything else pretty much the same?
Everything actually is. It's a $10, not even $10. We were paying $88 an hour. Now we're paying $95 for our inspector. So it was a very minor change on that.
And that $88 was established in 2015.
Yes.
So for inflation perspective, $95, I don't feel that that's much of a difference in cost at this point.
So we've also started having them do our plan checks for us. I instructed Kiamini all new plan checks for plans that come in to forward them to CSG. Interwest we'll have them finish up the ones that are currently in their hopper. I have to say their turnaround is exceptional. And the correspondence back and forth that we've been getting with them on the plan checks is wonderful. So they do a lot of work for the county as far as plan checks. And I can see why, because they are very responsive. Mm-hmm. And our contact on that is out of Newman. Cricket is her name. She does a great job, and we've only been doing it for a short time.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
No, I just was going to ask if you think that there'll be any problems leaving the contract with Interwest, and that they will they honor the projects that they have and see them through in a timely fashion.
Yeah, we haven't ceased our contract or put them on notice yet. We wanted to get this contract approved by you guys tonight so that Mary Rose can move forward with that. We have been advised by CSG if there is any issue that does come up, they'll automatically take over those projects and finish them up for us.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask for public comment. There's ain't nobody left. Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council.
So I will move to retroactively approve the emergency agreement for professional services dated August 23rd, 2021 with CSG Consultants Incorporated, and authorize the city administrator to sign the agreement.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilmember Garaventa, second by Councilmember Such. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins?
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa?
Aye.
Councilmember Sagerstrom?
Aye.
And Councilmember Such?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Okay, item number 10, approve letters of agreement between the City of Sonora and the Sonora Employees Association, Sonora Police Officers Association, Sonora Firefighters Association, and the Sonora Management Employees Association, providing a one-time hazard pay compensation payment for all City of Sonora essential workers during the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, council members, this item is coming before you out of direction that staff received from an August 16th closed session item. The agreements that we're asking the council to approve are with all labor associations within the city of Sonora, because all employees, with the acceptance of maybe one, I believe, Chris, were deemed essential during our COVID-19 pandemic. Because we have such a limited staff, has been all hands on deck here within the city of Sonora. And so again, before you are letters of agreement between the city of Sonora and your following labor unions. It talks about the hazard pay compensation in regards to performing essential job duties and services to the community at a time when they are faced with high risk of exposure due to COVID-19 from the public. In your agenda item, it details the COVID pay compensation based on full-time equivalent in a fiscal year. So we do have part-time employees as well that have been acting in the capacity as an essential worker. And so we wanted to make sure that we included those employees as well. And so we do allow, based on that FTE or full-time equivalent, a portion of hazard pay for all employees, regardless of full-time or part-time. So again, we just want to say how grateful we are for the dedication of all of our employees who continue to provide essential services to the residents of the city of Sonora during this unprecedented pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Colette or Ann, any?
No, I was very in favor of it when we discussed it, and I continue to be in favor of it. Although, you know, I would probably have even awarded them more. So.
Oh, one final thing, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I didn't include this.
Okay.
This is being paid with our American Rescue Plan dollars. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was stated on the record.
Okay. Councilmember Garaventa. Nope. And there's no public here to ask for comment, but I'll still put it out there. And nobody's coming up to the microphone, so I'll bring it back to the council. I just want to throw out there that I wish, I agree with Councilmember Sagestrom. I wish we could give an awful lot more. I wish we had the money to do that. You know, everyone, our police officers, our firefighters, our management, everyone's worked so hard during this time. And we really appreciate it as a council. So I guess I'll ask for a motion in a second.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Move to approve letters of agreement between the city of Sonora and the following agencies, or following employees representatives, the Sonora Employees Association or Police Officers Association, and I won't read what it says in the agenda, the Sonora Firefighters Association, and the Sonora Management Employees Association, providing one-time hazard pay compensation payment for all city of Sonora essential workers during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilmember Garaventa, second by Councilmember Such. Roll call.
And just before we go, the reason why I made that comment is because in the agenda it says the Sonora Fighters Association. No.
I own that mistake. I was a little bit tired putting together
That's
the
all.
agenda.
That's funny.
That's okay. So
I should have read it out loud like that too. That's great. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins?
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa?
Aye.
Councilmember Sagestrom?
Aye.
And Councilmember Such?
Aye.
Okay, passes 4-0. On to communications. Receive and update on the City of Sonora encroachment permit process for restaurant businesses based on council direction from the meeting of June 21st, 2021.
Get to that item, sir. I apologize. So the item before you is just a brief update to the council from that June 21st direction that that staff received in regards to looking at a permanent encroachment process for your area businesses, mostly restaurants, to be able to utilize sidewalks and city streets. We just wanted to inform the council that it is quite a lengthy process to update our encroachment permit process. In the agenda item, it talks about how that it's vested within the Sonora Municipal Code for the issuance of encroachment permits, and that it's an administrative policy that generally deals with easements and property under the jurisdiction of the city. And we generally look at driveway, utility trenching, parking aprons, sidewalk construction, and so forth when we issue encroachment permits. So, and I know Rochelle's here also to address anything, but when we're looking at this to be able to utilize sidewalks and restaurants from an encroachment permit process, it requires us to really reconstruct this ordinance to address those types of uses under an encroachment permit process. And so that would require us as city staff to sit down and go through that ordinance. It also requires a public hearing process because it would be a change in the code. We were a little bit hesitant to start going gangbusters with this, and then also looking at the revocation of urgency ordinance 868, because as we were starting to look at this, we saw the Delta variant caseload start to increase drastically. And from a staff perspective, my recommendation as your administrator would not to be to revoke that urgency ordinance anytime soon, in case there comes about any type of change from the state as far as closure of businesses. And so we've just been kind of hesitantly looking at how this is all going to play out with the increase in caseload. But in the meantime, Rochelle and I are looking at the ordinance. We are looking at how we're going to make changes. It's just taking a little bit more time than we anticipated from that regard. As far as the Diamondback is concerned, I have, like I stated earlier, let them know that with an encroachment permit process, there could be a permanent solution to allowing usage of Lineberg Street. But obviously, you know, with that, we have to also make sure that other businesses are given the same opportunity for utilization of Lineberg. So with that, we're going to have, when we bring back an item, we're going to have to look at on how we allow businesses to utilize that street. We can't automatically assume that just because they're the closest one to the street, that they automatically get that space. From a public contracting perspective, and from a lease perspective, we are not allowed to just lease out space to any sole business. We have to go through a process. So just wanted to provide that update. Rochelle, did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, there actually is an old code section dealing with sidewalk usage in the city as well. So we needed to do some cleanup, like Mary Rose said. So when we went back and kind of looked through it, there's some cleanup that we need to do in the municipal code to address this so that we're consistent. Because there is inconsistencies, as we know, over time in the code, and we want to make sure that if we're going to make a change, and with the encroachment permit process, it's consistent with what's in the code. And the code reflects what the current policy is of the city, not what was the policy of the city back in the 60s or the 50s or whenever it was adopted. The other thing is, as part of this, we also need
Microphone
to
went off.
Can you hear? Oh, or internet.
Yeah, now you're somehow the microphone is getting.
Can you hear us, Councilmember Segerstrom?
I can hear you, but Rochelle got cut off.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we also need to look at not only using the sidewalk as far as dining, but we also, the permit needs to cover things like placing items on the sidewalk, and we see that up and down Washington Street. So we're going to look at it as an all-inclusive approach. The other thing we need to deal with is garbage cans. We've had a lot of complaints. And we're going to need to look at what's a fair approach to deal with that as well. So anyway, so there is quite a bit. It's like anything else that we work on. Once you start working on it, it opens up a lot of cans, worms, and we've got to make sure that we do a good job with it.
Councilmember Such has a question, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry, I didn't, usually I would see your actual hand. So go ahead, Councilmember Such.
No, Ann was first.
I waved my hands for.
Oh, the screen is like.
No, I was.
I barely saw that hand. Go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to comment as Lana from the Diamondback. I'm sorry, I don't know her last name. You know, that Lineberg is a public space, and I understand that those are her private. That's her, you know, their personal property, that's their private property. However, I have gotten comments from city residents that they resent the fact that the Diamondback has kind of planted itself in the middle of their public space. And, you know, the idea was a park. not a restaurant sidecar. So I appreciate looking at the ordinance and reviewing all these issues, because the other one I remember Taru said was serving of alcohol, and not being able to control that with the surge of people going back and forth, and not having a strict boundary that was restaurant service. But so anyway, those were my 2 comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Such.
I would like, I mean, I agree with everything that Ann said. I also have had comments. I'm not going to say I've had, tons of emails, but I've had several emails from people complaining because they felt like they had lost that street as a public space. What I would like to see, because I think outdoor dining in downtown Sonora really makes it a much more charming town, I would like to see the city invest in some tables so that other restaurants can send customers with to-go food and have them and let them eat on Leineberg. And I feel like I'm stepping on sacred territory here, but I would actually like the city to consider removing at least one of those marble benches, because they don't work as a dining they don't really work on that street. I think that they're clunky, and I think that you can't move them to change the format of the street, and they're not comfortable to eat lunch, to use as a table for lunch. So I mean, I think that we really need to make that street work for as many people in town as possible. And I'm sorry for the Diamondback that they're losing. I don't know if they've lost two tables or 3 tables there, but it really does need to be a street that's available to everyone in the city, and every single thing that is on that street and is on these sidewalks has got to be ADA compliant. I think we've been a little bit lax about that, and that just isn't fair. So that's it.
Well, and one of the reasons why it was opened up in the first place was because there was no dining inside, and now they actually are at capacity for what they are already doing, and so the outside seating is actually beyond the capacity of their normal business was before COVID. So it is a public street and it is under the public trust, and we do need to keep on with this process of deciding how we're going to do the approachment permits and all that. And those that do avail themselves of the permits need to pay a fair market value for rental of the space. I mean, we're a business owner too. I mean, we're an entity as well, and it's taxpayers' property. So it's not free because of it's the public. So that's it, really.
Yeah, Mary Rose, you and I have had so much contact about this. I don't have any questions. I think that, what everyone has said has been correct. It's the public's place. It's the public's, this is the public's park. So I think we need to we'll find a good balance, and not everybody's going to be happy, but I think we'll find a good balance with everything as we continue to progress forward. So, and I do like to eat outside. That was one of the things with COVID, is I do like to eat outside because, again, it's shown with fresh air, a lot less chance.
Frankly, I wish some of our sidewalks were even wider.
Yeah, I really do. So, okay, so if no one has anything else, I'll move on to council member and department head reports. And I'll start with Chief New.
Did we do public on that? I know there's no one here, but did we formally do public?
No, I just looked out and so is there any public comment? Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I want to operate in the confines of the law. Okay, so I'll put Chief New on the spot again.
I did realize during open session on the Washington fire update, I did not mention something that I wanted to bring back up, which was just a big thank you to all of the staff of the Sonora Fire Department. We had every single member except for 2 that were working their other jobs at other agencies come back and staff up all of our additional equipment. So we had all 3 engines. We had 751, 752, and 755 in service, plus all of our utility vehicles. So those were 3 additional vehicles that were staffed by the entire Sonora Fire Department. So I just want to say a big thank you to them for being so committed to their community, so committed to protecting their town. And again, we've gotten a lot of praise and a lot of thanks from the community, and we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Lieutenant? Okay. Mr. Gorski?
I just wanted to mention sort of an IT thing. The FCC is implementing their suicide hotline nationally, and that's the dial 988. The one thing, the effect for Sonora, 209 area code, is 10-digit dialing for local calls is coming. And so late October, it'll require a 10-digit to make a local call. So keep that in mind.
I didn't know that.
Rochelle?
So I just want to shout out a thank you, and also we're very glad we got through it. We just completed our first CDBG monitoring. I've been doing monitoring or CDBG for the city for many, many, many years, and we've never been monitored. I think they kind of always thought we were doing what we were supposed to do because we were so active, but they did. They finally monitored us. Chris and Kim and I and Mary Rose joined in on the conversation, but Chris and Kim and I got all the packets together. Chris did all the financial side. We were scheduled for, I believe it was 6 days of monitoring or 7 days of monitoring. We had 3 very quick conversations, sent everything up immediately that they asked for. They were very pleased with the finances. Chris did a great job. Very pleased the city didn't have any findings on their audit. Couldn't believe that the city didn't have any findings on its audit that Chris works on. And we came through with flying colors, and we're done. And we were scheduled for 2 more days next week. So I'm glad to get that behind us. And as your community development director starts looking for that retirement down the road, the city won't have to go back and recreate things because I'm gone. We've already done it, and it'll be easy moving forward. So anyway, but it was good to see that happen and come to an end.
Thank you, Rochelle.
Yeah, thank you. Mary Rose?
Just that I can't express enough how much I appreciate our fire chief, our police chief, and the lieutenant. But not only that, our city staff here at City Hall coming together, you know, in the midst of this emergency. It was quite a disaster for us, and to see everybody kind of rise to the occasion. Job well done. I truly appreciate it.
Cool. Councilmember Segestrom?
I had to go back and look at my calendar. Yeah, it was shake up in the middle of all this, but I did attend a Central Sierra or CCEDA, the Economic Development Central, whatever. And they are moving ahead with biomass grants, and it all sounds really, really interesting, and I think very hopeful for this area because of the amount of biomass that I believe that there's 5 counties that would be participating, including Mono. So that is moving forward. I attended the Social Equity Committee, and I was really impressed with how well all the committee members interacted and appreciated one another's contributions. When the resolution is finished, it's going to be one of the most finely tuned and thorough resolutions in the state. So I really appreciated the deep thought that they had all given to their contributions. The Energy Action Committee right now is probably rethinking how it will function. It no longer has the PG&E and the Sierra Business Council as a driver. So it will be more of a community energy action committee. And I think the first event will probably be when you can have more than 50 people in a meeting. Will be at the TUD, and it will be a PG&E presentation. Then, of course, I attended the emergency briefings on Friday and Saturday. And just at the end of the week, the Cal City speaker series with the mayor of El Centro. And I imagine Mary Rose and Mark will hear her speak at the Cal Cities conference. She's really quite dynamite. And I think all of us could learn from her and her political experience in the city realm. So that's what I did for the last 2.5 weeks.
Councilmember Such.
I went to an IRWIM meeting, and the grants that I keep talking about for stormwater reclamation, or rainwater reclamation and stormwater control, actually went to Groveland. I'm really curious. I'm interested to see how this project will pan out. They are focusing on rainwater reclamation, a whole culvert study for this town of Groveland, a climate change nexus and climate resiliency model for Groveland, including drought, flooding, and fire. I love being on. Thank you, Matt, for letting me be on this committee. I love the work that I get to watch them do. And then social equity, still moving forward on the resolution, and it does feel like we've come together as a group with this latest project. And I'm actually quite proud of what we've written so far. And thanks, Anne, for your kind words about that. I attended Central Sierra Consortium of Care. The city will be eligible for a HHAP grant in the next cycle, which I think that application is due June 30th of 2022. So we have time to kind of study and determine how best to use these funds. And the grant does give some ideas about how it could be used, but that decision is made as part of the consortium. But hopefully the city will be able to get their hands on some of that money. And also the TCEDA board and meeting with the Board of Supervisors. And also I did spend, I don't know, probably 6 hours at Sonora L on Saturday after the fire. Just, it was just nice to I'm not sure that I was very helpful, but it was just nice to be there and to see what our community had actually put together pretty quickly. And Mary Rose actually could answer some questions that even other departments, county departments, were struggling with. So anyhow, that's it. That's what I've been up to.
Thank you. Chief New, I saw you out of the corner of my eye.
With everything going on, it's hard to remember everything, but one thing we can't forget is the Saturday is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And so just wanted to remind everyone to take a moment of silence for those that lost their lives in the towers, either running in or trying to run out. A lot of Americans died that day, and so just want to give them a remembrance for Saturday. Thank you.
Thanks.
For me, I broke my phone just before coming down here, so I'm not going to remember everything. But we're going to actually talk about what we're going to do. Tomorrow is our TCTC meeting, Transportation Council meeting, and if the District 10 director is there, I think I'm going to give him a little insight on how some of the discussions tonight about the situation at the old.
That would be much appreciated.
Right, the old highway yard there at the corner of Greenlee and Mona Way. It's kind of weird because I think this is about the only instance where the city council meeting was just before the TCTC because of the ways the calendar went. Attended the briefings up at the EOC during the Washington fire. And I'm trying to think of anything else that I've done. There probably is, but like I said, I can't see my schedule, so I'm gonna leave it at that.
I know, and I can't remember the date because of everything that's gone on. We did a joint session with the county
Yeah.
for EDA.
That's right.
And it was closed session, but what was so cool was we actually did a joint session with the county. So there's so much more cooperation for the public that voted our new board members in on the county. Like, thank you, because we can sit down and work with them and have an open dialogue and open debate. So that's good. Oh gosh, I forgot the other thing I was going to talk about. We have such a great little city, and again, can't be more thankful for our law enforcement and fire and everyone that was involved. The other thing I'll bring up, and I'll keep it really short because I'm not looking for any debate, but I had made a statement in support of our police. I received help from the statement, and we can talk about that later, it doesn't matter. But one of the things I wanted to make sure, because it is something that concerns me, is possible future violence inside the city limits in Sonora, or the county, I mean, for that matter. We are in this together. But I need to make it very clear that violence, our First Amendment rights will be protected, and violence won't be tolerated in the city limits of Sonora. It's just not. So for those outside entities that want to come in, cause some havoc, and then go on their way, it's not going to be tolerated. People will be prosecuted. They will go to jail. And here in our community, we do support our law enforcement, and I stand 110% behind our law enforcement. So that is all I have to say, and we will adjourn the meeting at 8:12 p.m.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Colette. Thanks, Aaron. Bye.
Bye, everyone.